Before the art school entrance exams in my past life, our entire class was hospitalized due to food poisoning. When we recovered and returned to the classroom, a wish-fulfilling will miraculously appeared on the podium. I know full well there's no such thing as a free lunch, advised everyone against rash actions. The roulette wheel will vanish automatically in 30 minutes. Students methodically went through their art exams. Years later, they still resented me for meddling in their business. Without me, they would have already excelled in every field, living the high life. My boyfriend conspired with his childhood sweetheart to run me over. Returned to the eve of discovering the roulette wheel. This time I chose to let go of my savior complex and respect others' destinies, waking up from that all-too-familiar dizziness, staring at the white walls surrounding me. Only then did I realize I'd been reborn during that food poisoning incident right before the art school entrance exams. It was caused by the supplier delivering stale ingredients. Since Class 15 is an arts program, teachers rarely hold them after class. By the time other classes were dismissed, we'd already finished lunch and were napping. The mass poisoning in Class 15 caused quite a stir throughout the school. Fortunately, everyone was basically fine. After a week of collective rest, we returned to school. The next moment I opened my eyes. Syra immediately came over when she saw I was awake. Melody, are you okay? Do you feel any discomfort anywhere? Staring at Syra's youthful face, I couldn't suppress the hatred boiling inside me. My hand flew across his face in a stinging slap. We weren't in a relationship at that point. At best, we were stuck in the almost lovers phase, but he pursued me with relentless enthusiasm. I had a crush on him back then, but decided to wait until the art exams were over to properly start a relationship. Though never officially stated, the whole class treated us as an item. I slapped Syra so hard she staggered. He covered his face with shocked eyes. Other classmates immediately gathered around at the commotion. Crystal rushed over and tenderly touched Syra's face. Syra dodged out of the way. She turned on me angrily. Are you insane? How could you hit someone? The excruciating pain from being hit by a car in my past life still seemed to linger in my body. I shut my eyes briefly to steady myself. He spoke with a hint of apology. Sorry, Syra. I wasn't fully awake just now. Thought you were some kind of monster. Syra's face darkened, but with so many people watching, she couldn't actually lose her temper. After all, it's perfectly normal to have some lingering effects from food poisoning, or perhaps there was still a shred of affection for me at that moment, allowing him to barely maintain his facade. The homeroom teacher announced we'd have a week off. Parents took their children home. Teachers hold meetings every Sunday evening. So this evening is our self-study session. A golden light flashed suddenly. A giant, multicolored wheel materialized on the podium. Syra, the class president, immediately stepped forward to investigate. Soul resonance, absolute color perception, limitless creativity, summoning magic, flawless aesthetics, absolute body control, astounding burst power. Just give it a gentle spin, and the skill meant for you will automatically claim its master before vanishing from the wheel. More and more classmates began gathering around. Everyone was brimming with curiosity about this mysterious wheel. Did this just materialize out of thin air? Are we actually the chosen ones like in those fantasy novels? Their classmates' eyes lit up at those words. 17 or 18. That age when everyone thinks they're extraordinary. Many students were itching to give it a try. They pointed at the skills on the spinning wheel, discussing excitedly. I was the only one staring fixedly at the spinning wheel's pointer. Backfire. When the backlash hits, after the initial excitement, some classmates began voicing doubts. This thing doesn't have any side effects, does it? I'm still young. I don't want to die. Crystal burst into laughter, her high ponytail swinging in a perfect arc through the air. The crowd was utterly mesmerized. Go big or go home. You haven't even started trying yet, but you're already acting all sneaky. You film directing majors really do have too many tricks up your sleeves. She then crooked her finger at Leo in a beckoning gesture. You're practically the walking bad luck charm of our class. This is your chance to turn things around. What are you waiting for? Leo's infamous in our class. All brawn, no brain. Your typical jock. Also Crystal's lapdog. Would jump if Crystal said, how high? Dozens of eager eyes turned toward Leo. A surge of heroic spirit welled up in Leo's heart. With a flick of his hand, the spinning wheel whirred into motion. The needle came to a perfect stop on explosive power. The explosive power effect gradually faded from the roulette wheel. Leo immediately did a standing long jump, effortlessly leaping an impressive distance. The spectating students promptly pulled out a ruler to measure it. 382 meters. That's insane. The world record is only 371 meters. The crowd erupted in disbelief. Leo must have hit the jackpot. For a jock to have this skill, do you realize what that means? It means he'll dominate both sprints and long-distance races. Clearing the high jump and long jump is a walk in the park, breaking world records like it's nothing. If even that chronically unlucky guy couldn't win the draw, we sure as hell can't do worse, right? Another classmate asked. You're feeling all right, aren't you? Leo shook his head. The atmosphere became lively again. Seeing this, Crystal lifted her chin triumphantly. Classmates, it seems we're going to shine in this arts exam. Then she turned to Syra, class president. Since you've contributed so much to our class, you get first pick. Even in the heat of excitement, everyone kept their basic rationality. All eyes turned to Syra. Syra waved at me in the crowd, signaling for me to choose first. The crowd erupted in teasing cheers. Crystal snorted dismissively, ignoring what had just been said. In anger, she raised her hand and spun the giant wheel. Successfully acquired the absolute body control skill. She couldn't hide the triumphant look on her face. As a dance student, she'd always felt her flexibility was lacking. This skill perfectly compensated for that. She immediately demonstrated with some backbends and splits, graceful as a white swan. At this point, Syra could barely contain his excitement and stopped questioning me altogether. Spinning the wheel with a finger, he unlocked the boundless imagination skill. Now the classmates stopped holding back. They stepped forward one after another and began to turn. I quietly returned to my seat and started reviewing events from my past life. Class 15 was an arts program, but not a class for prodigies, after the art college entrance exams in my previous life. Many classmates didn't get into their dream schools, but Syra and I were admitted to the same university, so we naturally ended up together. Though he later became a director, he just blended into the crowd among his peers. At the class reunion, I ran into my childhood sweetheart Crystal again, and we immediately got back together. My acting career was just starting to take off back then. They both falsely accused me of being the other woman. Then our former classmates came forward one after another to testify. It was revealed that Crystal and Syra grew up as childhood sweethearts. They officially became a couple in high school, blacklisted by the company and burdened with massive breach penalties. I went to confront them, only to be fatally struck by an oncoming car. In my dying moments, I saw Syra and Crystal flashing triumphant smiles not far away. Syra noticed how out of place I looked. She grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the stage. Everyone's practically lining up for superpowers. How come you're not even tempted? I subtly withdrew my hand. It's fine, I'll go last. The roulette will disappear when time's up anyway. Sensing my aloofness, Syra gave me a puzzled glance. Crystal stood with arms crossed, looking down at me from the podium. Melody, who do you think you're fooling with that holier-than-thou act? The whole class voted except you, trying to play the enlightened one while everyone else is blind. Her movements were so graceful that even a casual turn of her arm resembled dancing. I'm genuinely curious about her inevitable downfall. Losing control of your body, could it be paralysis or a vegetative state? Everyone in the class has already transferred. Crystal's words successfully caught their attention. Afraid I might be the exception in the class. That's just how things are. In a world of crows, even swans are guilty. I know exactly what they're thinking. We rise and fall together. Just 3 minutes left. I can't afford to mess up now. Watching Crystal's arrogant performance on stage, a brilliant idea popped into my head. I lunged forward and dashed onto the stage. My hand shot out and yanked Crystal's hair. Crystal let out a piercing shriek. I struck back instantly. The incident happened so suddenly that none of the classmates could react in time. Fueled by both fresh anger and old grudges, I put all my strength into the blow. My ferocious demeanor momentarily deterred anyone from attempting to intervene, until the boss's voice cut through the chaos. The crowd finally pulled us apart in a fluster. Crystal's hair was a complete mess, her face covered in scratch marks. I didn't fare much better either. Her nails were unusually long, leaving my neck burning with pain, but seeing her in worse shape than me filled me with uncontrollable glee. What's this nonsense? fighting in the classroom, the homeroom teacher's pointer smacked against the lectern with sharp cracks. The entire school could hear our class 15 making a racket. You're by far the worst group I've ever taught, about to graduate yet still completely lacking discipline. Only then did the students realize the turntable had vanished without a trace. They secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Crystal and Melody, come to my office after class. On my way back to the dorm from the office, I ran into Syra waiting for me. The spirited young man gradually merged with the future version of himself, weathered by smoke and liquor. Melody, what's on your mind? I've been calling you forever. I stared at him intently, making him visibly uneasy. He rubbed his nose and put on a stern face. What's wrong with you today? Why didn't you go learn the skill? When I remained silent, he continued, I'm only doing this for your own good. Don't you understand? Everyone else has acquired skills except you. I just think it's unfair to you. I respect your choices on most things, but you're wrong about this one. This is our one shot at greatness. What's your problem? The opportunity's staring you in the face and you still can't grab it. The ghosts of my past came rushing back. Isn't this just textbook emotional manipulation? All this talk about caring for me, yet not a single question about how my neck injury's been all this time. All talk about loving me, but never a single act to show it. I scoffed. The only opportunity. Then what about those who've burned the midnight oil studying? Unfair to me. How is it fair to them then? Syra never could win an argument against me, but he remained stubborn. I'm discussing this matter objectively with you. This isn't the time for youthful rebellion. Are you really going to abandon the entire class? So they were afraid I'd report them. They're overthinking it. No one would believe this kind of story anyway. Why should I go out of my way to make enemies prematurely? Don't worry, you go your way and I'll go mine. Crystal popped up out of nowhere. Though the facial wounds had been treated, they still looked gruesome. You'd better. If anyone stands in the way of our bright future, don't blame us for playing dirty. She hadn't yet developed the ruthlessness that would come later. It looked utterly ridiculous. She gently took Syra's hand, her voice soft. Syra, she's not one of us anymore. Look how long you've chased after her, always putting her first, and she still treats you with contempt. Syra didn't push her away this time. He gave me a long look before letting Crystal lead him away. What a perfect match made in heaven. Respect, ship it. 5 days before the art college entrance exams, Class 15 made headlines again. The homeroom teacher walked into the classroom with a proud smile, motioning for the students to quiet down. I heard Crystal got cast in a role by that famous director this time. Crystal stood up with humble words, but her face betrayed unmistakable arrogance. Just a minor role, really. I'm sure everyone here will shine brilliantly someday. 2 days earlier, a dance video went viral online. Crystal wore a dance costume with a veil. She danced gracefully to the music, like a fairy, a butterfly, or a piece of jade. She executed even the most challenging dance moves with effortless grace. Even renowned dance masters sought to take her as their protégé. Overnight, she rose to fame. The classroom erupted in gasps of astonishment. Remember your friends when fortune smiles upon you. Don't forget about us when you become a big star someday. That's Director Wayne we're talking about. Today it's a minor role. Tomorrow you'll be winning Best Actress. You got cast without any acting training, while some drama school graduates never get that lucky break. The pointed remark made everyone turn their attention back to me. The homeroom teacher rapped the lectern before continuing. We've got another wonderful news. Let's congratulate Syra. I just received word that he's won the Most Creative Mind Award in the junior division. Bright future ahead. The whole class broke into synchronized applause. Their eyes sparkled with excitement and knowing smiles. The following 2 days, too, our class keeps receiving exciting news. One student breaks a record here, another's calligraphy goes viral online, with strokes so powerful they seem to pierce the paper. It gets auctioned at a premium price. The instrument played by so-and-so moved people to tears, stirring uncontrollable emotions. Our homeroom teacher beams with joy every single day. Only I remain, having accomplished nothing. Once the teacher's favorite, I've now become invisible in class. But I couldn't care less, just going through the motions of classes day in and day out. I thought being the class monitor's future girlfriend would at least earn Syra some respect from them. Little did I know, when the first person mocked me, Syra did nothing. The people behind me are getting bolder. While I was listening to the lecture, They folded paper airplanes and stuck them in my hair. They claimed it was because I'd make a good comedian, saying they were just helping me prepare. When I went running on the field, they pasted all sorts of offensive words on my back. People keep saying the entertainment industry is stressful. I'd rather not hear it too often to avoid developing depression. Some guys who had crushes on me before would deliberately, accidentally, touch me, though I study acting. I'm not some delicate little flower. After I fought back a few times, they realized they couldn't take advantage of me. Every time I walk through the classroom, they harass me with vulgar language and lewd stares. I keep reminding myself over and over, just endure a little longer, it'll be over soon. They're like grasshoppers in late autumn, won't be hopping around much longer. Class 15's discipline is going downhill fast. Fewer students are showing up for class. The homeroom teacher's attempts to enforce rules were just laughed off by the students. Yet he still dreams of basking in their future glory. Don't be too controlling. I looked at the handful of students in class. It all felt utterly absurd. After decades of grueling study, I finally got my golden ticket. Still clinging to that dependency, they've all become slaves to their desires. Got cornered in the bathroom stall again. I heard Crystal's smug voice. Gather everyone later and let Syra see for herself. What kind of pure and innocent beauty would do such shameless things in the bathroom with someone else? You lot, get your phones ready to record. Even if she somehow gets famous later, this will be the ultimate expose. As the two approached, I steadied my nerves. I gave them a well-meaning warning. Do you realize this is a school? Are you even aware you're breaking the law? The two exchanged smirks, their faces dripping with contempt. We won't lay a finger on you today. Just stripping you for some photos, that's all. Listen, Melody, wise up. We're moving in different circles now. You might be begging us for jobs someday. Besides, we're underage. Good, they clearly know what they're doing. But they forgot one thing, they're underage, so am I. Juvenile protection laws exist to safeguard minors, not to serve as excuses for harming others. I pulled the brass knuckles from my pants pocket. I've waited too long for this day. When the restroom door finally opened, all three of us collapsed onto the ground. They were in pain, while I was just exhausted. The two boys clutched their backsides, howling in agony. The homeroom teacher quickly called for someone to take them to the hospital. Crystal saw I was completely unharmed and started fanning the flames. I think Melody's just jealous. We've all been performing exceptionally well lately, while she's been idle. That's why she's putting others down, to sabotage their art exam performances. Of those two guys earlier, one studies acting like me. Yesterday's dramatic reading of classic lines had netizens saying it outshone the original performance. Just let him play all the roles, I scoffed. Immediately pulled out my phone to access the camera feed and retrieved the video, shoved it right in Crystal's face. What, since when is self-defense a crime? Crystal took a panicked step backward, not seeing herself in the footage. She immediately lashed out. You pervert, installing cameras in the bathroom. Teacher, look what she did. Fortunately, the homeroom teacher kept her cool. Remove the camera, she had me follow her to the office. He sighed and asked me to hand over my phone. After checking and finding nothing unusual, I finally relaxed. I know you've been wronged in this matter. I'll make them apologize to you properly. You've already vented your anger by hitting them, but the art exams are just around the corner. I didn't need to hear the rest to know what he was going to say. I gazed at the golden sunlight outside. The sun was shining brightly, yet everything felt dark to me. The second to last night before art school entrance exams, someone suggested throwing a high school farewell party. We ended up at this sketchy dive bar. Naturally, I wasn't included in their plans, but that evening, I got a message from Syra. She wanted me to meet her at the bar, demanded I return every single gift he'd ever given me, so Crystal wouldn't get jealous. He officially announced his relationship with Crystal 3 days ago. I've been swamped lately and only managed to sort through the things he gave me. I was going to return them anyway. I sent them over via a delivery service. Who would have thought Syra's call came through moments later? It was Crystal's voice. Melody, you're utterly shameless. After all Syra's given you, this measly return. If you can't afford to live decently, don't live at all. Get your ass over here and settle this properly, or I'll make a scene at your parents' company. Crystal's been spiraling into madness lately. I believe she's capable of doing it. After packing up, I decided to slip the brass knuckles into my bag just in case. Better safe than sorry. Safety comes first. The wave of heat that hit me upon entering the bar made my head spin. The blaring music pounded against my eardrums. I followed the waiter to their table. The air was thick with the scent of alcohol and pheromones. My formerly innocent schoolmates, now swaying drunkenly on the dance floor, looked nothing like their uniformed selves, a pervasive air of decadence and depravity. Having never learned properly, everyone moved with awkward, graceless motions. A sudden thought occurred to me: those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. Crystal swayed on top of the gift box in her black spaghetti strap gown. Snatching the mic from me, she teased, well, 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 if it isn't our class's lotus blossom melody, pure despite growing in mud. Syra draped a coat over Crystal before lifting her down, wearing so little for others to see. Someone's getting jealous. The crowd started jeering and catcalling. I could only describe him with one word: sleazy. I couldn't be bothered watching their PDA, so I just pulled out my phone. 3. Check what's missing and tell me the price. I'll scan your QR code. Syra suddenly stood up. You blocked me, obviously. After all this drama, I'm not into self-torture. Does he actually think we can pick up where we left off? Like Crystal would ever approve of that. Stop arguing with her. Where's that bamboo cup Syra supposedly handmade for you? Come to think of it, I threw that moldy bamboo cup away ages ago. Handmade my foot. I saw the same damn thing selling for $8 on Pinduoduo. Slapping some handwriting on it doesn't make it handmade. Crystal clearly wasn't buying it. I pulled out a $10 bill and shoved it into Syra's hand. You're tarnishing Syra's pure love. She threatened to throw the money on the ground and stomp on it. You dare to deface currency. I let out a cold laugh and posted all the purchase receipts for Syra's items in the class group chat. A dozen fragmented images kept pinging the chat for quite some time before finally stopping. Someone who saw them let out a gasp of astonishment. Wow. Melody's being incredibly generous. She used to be so quiet in class. I always thought it was just Syra doing all the giving. I used to believe sincerity was priceless. I wanted to give him nothing but the best. I've returned what you bought me, so now it's your turn to pay me back. 933 in total. Pay now, pay later, whatever. Or maybe you could pool money with these future pillars of society. From our class, for us high school students, that's no small sum of money. Crystal noticed the onlookers had all lowered their heads to fiddle with their phones. A wave of frustration washed over her. Melody, save your sarcasm. In 2 days we'll be famous, while you'll still be groveling at our feet. The moment I finished speaking, my classmates all started talking over me in unison. Yeah, why don't you suck up to us now? Maybe we'll throw you a bone with some minor role later. Honestly, I've had enough of your stuck-up attitude. Who do you think you're looking down on? This came from my desk mate, who used to say I was too quiet and worried I'd get bullied. The more insecure a person is, the more they crave seeing others brought low. The truth of the word stopped mattering long ago. They just want to stomp an exception like me into the dirt. Syra frowned and assumed her class monitor demeanor, putting on a show of caring for my own good, picked up a glass of wine to hand to me. They're right, we're different from you now. You should leave yourself an out. Just apologize to them. I'm sure our classmates aren't petty people. What's the harm in swallowing your pride and saying a few conciliatory words? This society rewards those who adapt. You need to learn to bend. How does he say these twisted arguments with a clear conscience? I nearly laughed my guts out. I'm definitely not like you guys. I can recite the 8 honors and 8 shames, can you? Syra visibly choked on her words. His eyes flashed with impatience. Melody, what's gotten into you? Is it true what Crystal said, that you've turned bitter because I'm with her now? This kind of self-absorbed man never fails to amaze me. I sincerely wish him and Crystal all the best. Wishing you both true happiness. May it last forever. Stop ruining other people's lives. So now, can you pay me back? Syra was the first one to leave the exam hall. Surrounded by a crowd of reporters during the interview, he answered the journalists' questions with effortless grace. With tears glistening in his eyes, he said, "Thank you to my parents and teachers for nurturing me, and to myself for years of relentless effort. Through all hardships, I never slackened. May we all ride the wind like the legendary rock, soaring 90,000 miles at dawn." The radiant young man spoke with a voice brimming with passion. The performance drew waves of applause. Someone in the crowd even recognized him as the award-winning director who recently went viral. Compliments poured in from all directions. Crystal pushed through the crowd, beaming as she linked arms with Syra in a show of possession. The reporter smiled knowingly. Seems like this bachelor's off the market. Crystal wagged her finger, blushing as she glanced at Syra. More like this flower's been plucked. We've promised to meet at the summit, and we won't let you down. With that, they raised their interlocked hands toward the camera. Now no one can accuse us of puppy love. This viral video completely dominated the trending charts. Hashtag fairytale couple of art exams. Hashtag true love meets at the summit. Hashtag power couple. Hashtag. After the exam, I went back to the classroom to pack my things. Every classmate wore a triumphant smile. Even our homeroom teacher caught the infectious joy. Don't mean to be a buzzkill, just reminding everyone to tone it down a bit. After all, the exam results aren't out yet. The student with absolute color perception chuckled. Relax, teach, it's in the bag. I can detect even a micron of color variation. The calligraphy enthusiast changed into traditional Han attire. I felt like Wang Shiji possessed me during the exam, my pen dancing across the paper like a soaring dragon, said the classmate with summoning skills, swaying his head while twirling his pen, as if he'd truly become a literary master. Another classmate pulled out a camera, casually snapped some shots of the view outside, then showed off the photos. The surrounding classmates gasped in amazement. I can shoot blockbuster-worthy photos without even editing them. The aesthetic perfectionist classmate preened even more under the teacher's astonished gaze. Crystal tossed her hair. I was in top form today. My dance perfectly interpreted every musical phrase. The examiner said among all candidates he supervised, I have the most natural grace, a born dancer's physique. Then she rested her head on Syra's shoulder. You did great too, Syra. When you become a famous director, you'd better cast me as your leading lady. Syra glanced at me. I averted my eyes. In bitter disappointment, he pulled Crystal into a crushing embrace. You are, without a doubt, will always be my one and only leading lady. Crystal's eyes welled up with emotion. After announcing the time for the farewell banquet, our homeroom teacher discreetly left us alone. I didn't attend the graduation banquet. After the art exams in my previous life, I took the third round of Beijing Film Academy's entrance test. The assigned creative work was about a day in the life of a farmer. Though I got admitted, I wasn't satisfied with my performance. There's still some time before the third round of exams. I decided to start my observation and learning journey at the local market. Crystal came to the market to buy ingredients for Syra's meal. Wanting to prove she's equally adept in the kitchen as she is in social settings, sometimes I really want to dissect a love-struck brain to see what makes it tick. After running into me, they snapped a photo of me sorting vegetables and posted it in the class group chat, joked that I was getting an early start on my peasant lifestyle. I quickly typed 2 words. Pay up, then screenshot the whole thing with a few quick taps and left the group chat. Maybe they think I'm hopeless yet still so driven. Class 15 started a part-time job trend. Syra was the first to jump on it. After all, he still owes me money. The art exams are over. The backlash begins. The first to face the consequences was Leo, the athlete with explosive potential, because his natural talent caught the city sports team's attention, took him to participate in various sports competitions. True to expectations, he clinched first place and created a legend, crowned as the undisputed champion in the sports world. During a national championship event, he shook the award-presenting official's hand with excessive force. The official's hand was crushed to the point of fracture. He let out a fart during the high jump. His pants split apart explosively. During this live stream, Leo experienced complete social annihilation, suspecting mental instability. Authorities immediately sent him for evaluation, forcing his withdrawal from all competitions. Next came the classmate with summoning magic abilities. When invited to judge a children's calligraphy competition, pointing at the short-sleeved crowd and ranting about moral decline, bolted uncontrollably onto the road, stunned by the stream of passing cars, hiding under the table and refusing to come out. Those with soul resonance take it to even greater extremes. Even passing dogs would stop to chat with him before moving on, would even sneakily eat poop when no one's looking, went to thank the dog afterward. I passed the third round smoothly. Farmers have endless chores yet find contentment easily. Smiles at sunrise. hot meals waiting after selling vegetables, toiling from pre-dawn till dusk, through spring planting and autumn harvest without respite, the bustling alleys, gathered in our hearth fires. Spread out is the human world. The moment all proctors broke into approving smiles, I knew then that my efforts hadn't been in vain. One mentor in particular took a special liking to me. He brought me to the film set for training, clearly intending to groom me. The moment I stepped in, I spotted Syra and Crystal arguing in the distance. It suddenly dawned on me. This must be the crew everyone kept mentioning, Director Wayne's production. My mentor muttered, "Disgusting," under his breath and quickly pulled me away from them. They're that semi-famous influencer couple, God knows what got into them. The guy kept insisting his girlfriend's peerless dancing girl performance lacked authenticity, while she just kept spinning in circles like a broken top during her routine. For us actors, honing our craft is what truly matters. Hype-built reputations pop like soap bubbles when tested. She seemed to realize it wasn't proper to gossip behind people's backs. The mentor rubbed his nose. "Come on. I'll take you to the set." Syra was still arguing, only this time, it was with Director Wayne. Director Wayne threw his walkie-talkie on the table in anger, halting the entire shoot. "Who's the director here? You or me? Some greenhorn trying to call the shots. Get out and take that dizzy girlfriend of yours with you. Don't make me repeat myself." Several stagehands closed in and escorted them out. First time I've ever mentored someone like this. Thought I'd found my successor. Turns out he's a lunatic with wild imagination, more like a gaping hole in his head. I narrowed my eyes. Their karma had clearly come full circle. So this is the backlash of absolute bodily control, being at the mercy of others, from a graceful dancer to a mere spinning marionette. Saying farewell to my mentor, a shrill voice approached. I knew it. I was perfectly fine on set until suddenly getting kicked out. "You must have cozied up to someone in this crew to sabotage me and Syra. Syra. Look, it's all Melody's doing, scheming behind our backs with that cheating bastard." The mentor's face darkened as she snapped angrily, "Filthy minds see filth everywhere. For God's sake, I'm a woman with kids your age. I'm letting this slide because you're young, or you'd be hearing from my lawyer." The mentor kept her hair short for practicality and favored comfortable, androgynous styles. Crystal froze at the roar, and Syra quickly apologized. The mentor stormed off in a huff. I suppressed a smirk and turned to leave, with Crystal hurrying after me. "Was this your doing? Why have we all been acting so strange lately? Did you know that roulette wheel was rigged all along?" I shrugged. "Ever bought that pickled cabbage beef instant noodles? The packaging always says, serving suggestion, for a reason." 5. Crystal scoffed. "Stop beating around the bush. So what if I knew?" You could spot those tiny disclaimers, but missed the giant backlash warning on the dial. Crystal stumbled back 2 steps in shock, steadied by Syra. "Why didn't you warn us?" I flagged down a passing taxi and got in. "You know my English isn't great, and with so many classmates, was there really nobody who knew that word?" The answer was obvious, but human nature is greedy. Who doesn't dream of skyrocketing to success? Mid-January, the art exam results are out, but I was the only one who made it to college. Class 15 students started acting all weird. Parents began swarming the school. They claimed it was lingering effects from the previous food poisoning incident. Then they started saying the school had bad feng shui and the kids were possessed. The school administrators presented all sorts of evidence before finally dragging me out to clear their names. "Didn't you say it was food poisoning? This kid got poisoned too, but somehow walked away without any lasting effects. Didn't you say the feng shui was bad here? How come this kid turned out fine, even got into Beijing Film Academy with perfect scores?" The homeroom teacher's beaming face turned gloomy in an instant. He openly admitted his career was ruined. Thanks to me, the school didn't collapse under public pressure. I went from being the odd one out to their so-called lucky charm. I simply smiled without a word. The moment he took my phone and fell silent, his fate was already written on the wall. The once great minds fell one by one. They became cautionary tales circulated in schools nationwide. A sudden genius without tempering by time is inferior to ordinary folks. Someone must have put them up to it. I'd just stepped out when they cornered me in the alley. My once vibrant classmates now sported scruffy beards. His eyes were dull with weariness. I sighed and quietly slipped on the brass knuckles. Reasoning before force was my last act of schoolmate courtesy toward them. "I know what you're after. These after effects have nothing to do with me. you've had it rough lately, and coming after me now will only make things worse. You should think about who's manipulating you. Don't just be someone else's pawn. Leave now. I won't hold it against you." My eyes locked onto Crystal at the back of the crowd, the moment I sensed something was off. I'd already called the police. I'll assume the worst of those who've lost their sanity. Crystal bit her lip. Don't listen to her. The school sees us as a disgrace now. We're all in the same class. Why should she get to stay above it all? Hearing this, the classmates surged forward. The alarm blared through the entire alleyway. They've met their destined fate. From then on, we lived in separate worlds. The school invited me to give a speech. Gazing at the sea of eager and admiring eyes in the audience, the lingering gloom in my heart has finally dissipated completely. Every tiny spark can form a galaxy of stars. There's no overnight success, only victories born from steady accumulation. If you're truly willing to persevere, the worst outcome life can give you is simply blooming later than others. And if you do succeed, what does it matter if it comes late? I believe those who chase the light will eventually shine brilliantly themselves. The last time I heard about Crystal was right after the freshman orientation ceremony. Crystal could spin non-stop, got dragged into performing by sponsors. When the VIP toasted her, she lost control and spun around, slapping the big shot. The big shot kicked her out of the venue in a fit of rage. Who knew she'd keep spinning and leaping around? She jumped off the overpass. Her body was never recovered. Syra kept offending people by blurting out random nonsense, got blacklisted in the industry. He didn't dare speak another word. Even his own parents couldn't stand him. Somehow managed to dig up my contact information, said what he thought were heartfelt messages. His remorse, I scoffed at it, blocked the number without hesitation, happily embracing my new life at Beijing Film Academy. My life is just getting started. Story 2. My parents and I were killed by zombies right at the entrance of our own villa. The person who opened our front door was my brother's girlfriend, whom he loved dearly, but she was deceitful. To save herself, she sacrificed my brother to the zombies, opened the door to let my father's enemies invade our villa, take our supplies, and pushed our entire family into the clutches of the zombies. I died with such unwillingness, but, as if even the heavens couldn't stand by and watch this happen, I was given a chance to live again. To my surprise, I wasn't the only one who was reborn. My death was tragic. I was literally torn apart and eaten alive by zombies. It was excruciatingly painful. Not far from where I lay, I saw my parents suffering the same fate. The zombie devouring my father was none other than my brother. I closed my eyes in despair as the zombie bit into me. After a while, the pain around me gradually subsided, and just when I thought I had turned into a zombie myself, I felt something soft. I opened my eyes and found myself in my pajamas, lying in my bed with no sign of zombie moans around me. After carefully checking my body and looking at the time, I was finally convinced that I had been reborn, 2 months before the zombie outbreak. Filled with a renewed vigor, I rushed out of my room. Looking up, I saw my parents with the same expression, and from the look in their eyes, I knew they had been reborn just like me. The three of us hugged each other, crying and sobbing, our cries echoing through the villa. My brother, with his messy hair, came out of his room and looked at us as if we were fools, not understanding what was going on. We glanced at him as if he were the fool too. In our previous life, he had been a naive fool. After testing my brother a few times, my father looked at him with frustration and muttered, "How did I ever have such a foolish son?" My mother and I exchanged sympathetic glances. In the past life, driven by blind love, he had inadvertently doomed us all, and he was the only one among us who hadn't been reborn. Still as naively stupid as before, we all sighed. After eating like we hadn't eaten in ages, my parents and I, as the core members of the family, tacitly went to the study to meet. As soon as we entered the study, my mother couldn't help but start crying again, hugging my father and me. My father, still somewhat rational, spent some time comforting her, and I stood by, feeling like a third wheel. Since in my father's eyes, I was the strongest girl in the house, certainly stronger than my mother. In our previous life, during our days hiding out in the villa, I had acted as the family's security, even smashing a zombie's head with a baseball bat, an act that left my mother terrified. I cleared my throat, prompting my parents to turn their awkward gazes towards me. After a few minutes of silence, I was the one who broke the peace. "Mom, Dad, we have 2 months until the zombie outbreak. This time, we need to be fully prepared. Heaven has given us a second chance, and we must seize it firmly, I said with a serious tone. My parents nodded in agreement. I continued, Dad, we can't stay here anymore, we need to move. Let's head to the mountains, where no one can find us, and where the zombies won't go. No, staying on land won't do. Who knows how long the zombie outbreak will last, if it's prolonged. Surrender was just a matter of time, my dad finally said. His business mind kicking into gear. We fell into a prolonged silence. At sea, my dad and I said in unison. I remembered from my past life that the base of the World Alliance Center was located on a mothership at sea. Zombies aren't afraid of water, but they can't survive at sea for long. Unfortunately, that place only accepted heads of state and people with special abilities. Ordinary people could only struggle to survive at the land-based bases. In my previous life, our family didn't even make it to the base before my brother's manipulative girlfriend fed us to the zombies, so in this life, we decided to struggle on at sea. We planned to buy a boat. Both my mom and I enthusiastically raised our hands in agreement. Just as we were discussing how big a boat to buy, my dad fell silent, his gaze fixed outside the window. I knew he was looking at Eric's father's house. Dad, let's tell Uncle. Our two families can leave together. My dad didn't respond. But I knew he had made up his mind. Next to our own, the person my dad cared about most was probably Uncle. After all, Uncle and my dad had grown up together like brothers. At a time like this, my dad wouldn't abandon Uncle's family. The two of them had come out from the countryside together with little education, struggled for years, and finally managed to start a textile factory with great difficulty, which brought them to where they were today. It could be said that the trajectories of their early lives were intertwined with each other. Later, they even married and built their businesses together, so it wasn't an overstatement to call them brothers. However, due to disagreements in their business perspectives, somehow, they ended up not speaking to each other. Both being proud middle-aged men, neither was willing to back down, becoming neighbors who hadn't spoken for 3 years. But this didn't greatly affect us. My mom still had afternoon tea with Eric's mother every day, and I still tagged along with Eric, Uncle's only son, like a loyal follower. Why? Because I liked him, but just because I was 3 years younger. When I got into the middle school he attended, he had just graduated. Determined, I got into the high school he attended, only for him to go off to university. I was always a step behind because of our 3-year age difference, yet that didn't deter my infatuation with following him. In high school, I set my sights on getting into his university, sacrificing all my leisure time to dive into my studies, dreaming of standing by his side in my freshman year. Everyone could see that I liked him, everyone except him, but soon, my 10 years of pursuit ended the summer I finished my college entrance exams, watching a girl in a floral dress lean on him. My 800-word confession drowned in my throat, ultimately sinking to the deepest recesses of my heart. In the end, I never stood by his side. I opted to escape, enrolling in a university in the north. For 3 years, there were no encounters until the zombie outbreak. When my brother's manipulative girlfriend kicked us out of the house, I saw Uncle and Eric rushing out with a large shovel, shouting at us as they ran. Eric's eyes were terrifyingly red. The last thing I saw before I closed my eyes was him running towards me like a madman. But in the end, I died at the hands of zombies, naturally unaware of what happened to Uncle's family or to Eric. So this life, my parents and I planned to tell Eric's family the truth and band together for survival. After 10 minutes of mental preparation, the three of us knocked on Eric's family's front door. Aunt greeted my mom and me with a smile blossoming like a flower, but paused briefly when she saw my dad, still warmly inviting us in, sitting in Eric's family's living room. I watched the two middle-aged men sipping tea with grim faces, ignoring each other, and couldn't help but find it amusing. I held back for a while, and seeing that my dad showed no sign of starting the conversation, I decided to break the ice first. When I finished recounting my past life experiences, Eric's family looked at me as if I were insane. Eric touched my forehead and asked, "Do you have a fever? Has your brain overheated?" I glared at him. Aunt looked at me with a face full of sympathy. Considering I was almost like a daughter to her, I was somewhat anxious, but I believed Uncle would trust me. In my past life, his family had started stockpiling supplies early and even prepared some for my family. thanks to the supplies sent by Eric's family, we survived 3 months after the zombie outbreak. However, it was these very resources that made us a target for my father's enemies, who conspired with my brother's girlfriend and led to the tragic demise of my family. So, I had guessed that uncle must have known something, or he wouldn't have been prepared the last time. As expected, when I looked at uncle, he was seriously pondering. My dad couldn't stand it any longer and said, "Finn, say something." Uncle gave my dad a meaningful look and said, "I believe, a couple of days ago, Gabriel called me." He continued, "He said that a virus outbreak has occurred in the US, and the military has completely locked down the information. Although the infected are currently contained, the situation doesn't seem good. He advised us not to travel abroad recently." My heart sank. Gabriel, Eric's cousin who had entered the military academy early and was now said to be part of the National Security Agency, was a credible source. Uncle must have thought the same, ultimately, perhaps because uncle knew my dad too well and knew he wasn't rash. He decisively chose to believe my dad and agreed to prepare together. When we brought up the idea of buying a boat, Eric's family didn't object and even seemed a bit excited. "Have you thought about the fact that none of us knows how to sail?" My mom's words woke everyone up, and there was a moment of silence. Eventually, my dad and uncle decided to learn how to sail. With only 2 months left, I hope it's enough time. Our two families plan to liquidate all our assets and convert them into resources for survival in the apocalypse. Combined, our family assets were worth over $1 billion, which should be enough. The division of labor was clear. My dad and the others would learn to sail, Eric and I would prepare food, and my mom and aunt would gather daily necessities and medicines. While everyone was busy, my foolish brother was still preoccupied with his love life. It was then I realized that the biggest trouble at the moment was my brother's manipulative girlfriend. Although my brother was naive, we couldn't give up on him. But to take him with us, we had to deal with his girlfriend first. Gentle persuasion wouldn't work, as my mom had already tried that in the past life with no success. So, we decided to take drastic measures to make my brother see her true colors and prevent the duo from causing trouble. My dad started by selling off all his assets, including funds, stocks, and our current villa. Then, on the day my brother brought his girlfriend home for dinner, a group of intimidating debt collectors arrived at our door. It scared my brother to the point where his legs went weak, and he was in disbelief, while his girlfriend looked visibly upset. After finally managing to send the debt collectors away with some jewelry we gathered from home, my mom spoke up. "I heard your dad owns a mine and has made quite a bit of money over the years. Given our situation, do you think you could ask your dad for a loan?" The girlfriend's face turned green, but in front of my brother, she couldn't say much and reluctantly responded, "Auntie, I'll ask my dad." My mom thanked her profusely, holding her hand. I was thrilled seeing the splendid expression on the girlfriend's face, but I didn't show it. In our previous life, we knew that her father was just a gatekeeper at a mine, yet, to satisfy her own vanity, she fashioned herself into the image of a rich second-generation socialite, funding this facade through morally questionable means. She was clever, playing the field for years before deciding to look for a gullible partner. The truly wealthy elite would never consider her, knowing her background was just a quick investigation away, so she avoided them, unwilling to settle for a relationship with much older men in their 40s and 50s. She set her sights on my brother, a naive, lifelong bachelor with a modest family fortune. We thought that once she realized our family wasn't wealthy, she would stay away from my brother, allowing him to finally see her true colors. After dinner, the gold digger hurried off, leaving my parents and me exchanging knowing smiles. The debt collectors were actors we had hired. Their performances were quite convincing. We staged the whole scene to encourage her to leave on her own accord. "Mom, you really have the talent of a leading actress," I said, not missing the chance to flatter her, while my dad nodded in agreement. After escorting the gold digger out, my brother returned with a gloomy expression. "Dad, are we really bankrupt?" he asked. My dad launched into his act, sighing deeply. "Son, pack your things. We have to move out tomorrow. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry, but the bank has taken over our textile factory. Soon, even this house, Dad. I'm about to graduate from university. I can start working and take care of you," I said, forcing tears. Even my brother couldn't stand by silently. "Dad, don't worry, I'll take care of the family from now on. It was a relief to hear him speak sensibly, even if just this once. Jonathan, why don't you arrange a meeting with Annie's parents in a few days? Let's get the marriage certificate sorted, but with our situation, I'm afraid Annie and I might not agree, my mom said, her tears flowing freely. Their acting skills made my dad and me feel inadequate. Mom, don't think that way about Annie and I. She and I are truly in love. Just trust me, my brother quickly interjected, fearing my mom might say something unfavorable about Annie and I. Watching him eagerly dial the gold digger's number, I couldn't help but think how naively pure my brother was. But then again, if he were any wiser, the woman's poor acting wouldn't have worked on him so well. It's also true that he had been overly protected by our parents since childhood, much like myself. In our previous life, under her flattery, I even spoke well of her to my mom. Thinking back, I really wanted to slap myself, but fortunately, we had a chance to do it over. However, it turned out I had underestimated her. She had secretly investigated our family. Thankfully, our assets had already been liquidated by then, or we would have been exposed. Seeing that she couldn't dig up anything substantial, she remained cautious. Carrying a pregnancy test report, she visited the small flat in the suburbs that my dad had recently rented. It had a small yard and only 4 rooms. She walked in, her high heels clicking as her eyes scanned our humble yard. Her disdain was well masked, but we could still see it, understanding each other without words. My brother rushed to assist her, and only then did she slowly make her way inside. Uncle, Aunt, I'm pregnant, it's Jonathan's, she said, her voice laced with a feigned grievance. Hearing this, my brother was so overjoyed he nearly brought down our shaky house. He stepped forward and kissed the gold digger. My parents and I were standing nearby, feeling sick. Hazel, that's wonderful. Why don't you go ahead and register your marriage remotely with our family first? We'll definitely throw you the biggest wedding later, my mom said warmly, her hand clutching a cup of green tea. Auntie, I love Jonathan and I really don't mind these things, she said earnestly. If I hadn't seen her true colors in a past life, I might have believed her. Oh dear, you're pregnant now. Don't just stand there, let's eat first, and after eating, Jonathan can take Hazel to get the certificate. My dad chimed in helpfully. So, my brother, looking a bit pale, sat down at the table with MS, green tea, facing a meal of cabbage and potatoes. Her appetite clearly vanished. My brother was obviously feeling very guilty. Mom, Hazel is pregnant, and you didn't even make any meat dishes. My brother, so heartless. Son, you know our situation, we really don't have the money right now, and with all these debts, I'm just trying to get us through this so we can pay them off and buy you and Hazel an apartment, my mom said, her eyes welling up with tears, causing my brother's face to flush. Hazel, have you asked your dad? Maybe he could lend your uncle some money to tide us over, or perhaps he could buy the wedding house now, maybe a 3-bedroom, so we can take care of you, my dad said, his voice not as indifferent as usual, which I found a bit amusing. MS, green tea turned even paler upon hearing this. My brother had just escorted her to the door when we heard them start to argue. We need to add more fuel to the fire, I said, and my parents nodded in agreement. After all, time waits for no one. And now we only had 1 month left. By the way, Dad, how are you and Uncle doing with the boating lessons? As soon as I mentioned this, my dad got excited and said, pretty good, it's not that hard, and with the right payment, those old masters will teach everything. In a few days, your uncle and I are planning to buy a boat. We wanted to add more, but then we saw my brother come back, looking dejected. My dad gave a look, and he and my mom went back to their room. I followed my brother. Brother, what did sister-in-law say? Little sister, do you think our family really has no money? We don't even have a decent house. I feel like I'm not worthy of Hazel. Great, he's been brainwashed again, already feeling inferior. I held up a mirror to my brother's face. Look at yourself. You were the most handsome guy in school, and besides, you graduated from a top university. Our family might be out of money, but earning enough for a house isn't hard for you. Sister-in-law's dad is just like ours, not much educated, and she only finished middle school herself. What she values most is education. Besides, she loves you so much, she won't care about these material things. After a lengthy pep talk which restored my brother's confidence, he indeed grabbed the household registration book and headed out. My parents and I followed in a Wuling Hongguang. We waited outside Ms. Green Tea's apartment building for over half an hour before the police and an ambulance arrived. Then we saw my brother and another man being detained by the police, while Ms. Green Tea was carried out on a stretcher, her white dress stained with blood. After receiving the call, my parents and I nervously entered the police station. Wow, this question really shattered our understanding of things. It turns out that the green tea, a Chinese slang for a woman who appears innocent but is actually manipulative, wasn't just dating my brother, but was also engaged to another guy we just met. When my brother went to find her, he ran into them, and a fight broke out between the two men. The green tea tried to intervene but accidentally fell and miscarried. After bailing my brother out, we rushed to the hospital. Luckily, we made it in time. And I took out the hair samples I had sneakily collected from my brother and her fiancé at the police station, and asked the doctor to conduct a paternity test. After paying extra to expedite the process, the results came back in 2 hours. The child was neither my brother's nor her fiancé's. Upon hearing this, my brother completely broke down. He finally confronted the green tea and slapped her. I had never seen him act so decisively in my life. I almost wanted to applaud, however. The joy was quickly suppressed as we needed to focus on gathering supplies urgently. While my brother was wallowing in his heartbreak, Eric, my mom, and I went on a spree at various wholesale markets. We first planned to purchase a boat, considering that we might need to live on it for an extended period. We ended up spending $300 million to buy a luxurious cruise ship with 3 decks, each nearly 350 square meters, providing ample space. After my dad and uncle had professionals inspect the ship, they began to modify it. They spent a lot of money to reinforce the hull and replaced all the windows with military-grade bulletproof glass, which was said to withstand even cannon fire. On a whim, I picked up a pebble nearby to test the glass. Be careful. Just as the stone rebounded towards my face, Eric rushed over and pulled me into his arms. The stone hit his shoulder instead. I was a bit dazed and didn't know what to say to ease the awkwardness. He quickly stepped back, returning to his usual indifference. I tried to check his shoulder out of concern, but he stepped back again and said, "It's fine." Before he walked away, I felt there was something strange in the way he looked at me. With time pressing, I couldn't dwell on it and joined my dad's team in the efforts. Driven by our financial capability, it only took a week to install all the reinforced hull and glass. Eric's team, meanwhile, hired a decorating squad to apply the best waterproof sealant to each deck, especially the second and third, which were coated 5 or 6 times. After clearing out unnecessary items from the cabins, we purchased a large quantity of fireproof and moisture-resistant asbestos mats to cover the floors, planning to use these 2 decks for storing supplies. The top deck was designated for living quarters, which were also lavishly furnished with high-end furniture. As my dad said, there's no point in saving money, so we aimed for the best in everything, which made a lot of sense to me. While my dad and his team rushed to complete the renovations, Eric and I began stocking up on food. While my mom and aunt prepared household items and medicines, Eric and I rented a small van and drove to the largest wholesale market. The manager was initially stunned when he saw the extensive list we handed him, but being a seasoned professional, he just smiled and agreed to help us. He did, however, gently remind us, "If you ask me, you young folks starting a supermarket shouldn't stock up so much all at once. It might be better to phase your inventory in batches." Eric and I exchanged a glance and calmly explained that we planned to donate the supplies to children in mountainous regions. Upon hearing this, the manager's expression changed, showing even more respect. We provided an address and requested delivery within 3 days, to which the manager readily agreed. The address was for a warehouse we had rented near the port to avoid drawing attention. Having experienced a past life, I knew that human nature could be greatly magnified in extreme times, and it was unpredictable what troubles could arise. Later, we went to the vegetable market and cleared out various stalls of fresh vegetables like potatoes and sweet potatoes that have a longer storage life. Our philosophy was to err on the side of surplus rather than shortage. My mom was also busy. She and aunt engaged in some revenge shopping, storming through malls to buy clothes for all seasons for everyone, down to duvets, bed sheets, underwear, and socks. They made sure to cover everything to avoid drawing too much attention. virtually sweeping through every mall in the city. Meanwhile, Eric and I visited other wholesale supermarkets to stock up on essentials like toilet paper, sanitary pads, towels, soap, facial cleanser, laundry detergent, and bath salts. And hauled everything back to the warehouse. We even rushed to the cosmetics counters to buy several large boxes of skincare products and sunscreen. This is not the time to worry about looking good, Eric teased as he motioned for the salesperson to bring over a few more boxes. I kicked him playfully, and he just laughed, making me blush. Wait for me a moment, I need to buy something, Eric said as we were about to head back. What do you need? I'll come with you, I offered. No, it's fine. I'll go by myself, you wait in the car, he replied, his cheeks slightly red. I hesitated for only a second before agreeing. I've never been able to guess what he's thinking, so I decided to just wait as he asked. 20 minutes later, Eric returned carrying 3 unmarked boxes. When it was time to unload, I tried to sneak a peek inside the boxes, but they had already disappeared, which I found odd. Just as I was about to ask, Eric quickly changed the subject. The warehouse is almost bursting. We should start moving stuff onto the ship gradually. Looking at the warehouse crammed with supplies, I nodded in agreement. So later, my dad and 2 other men came over in the middle of the night to quietly transfer everything onto the cruise ship. Due to the need for discretion, it took them a whole week to move everything. During this time, we continued our frantic shopping spree. I went to an outdoor gear store and bought 10 sets of every possible tool we might need: binoculars, tents, flashlights, lighters, clothes, shoes, backpacks, and protective gear. Of course, the most critical issues were water and electricity. At sea, water wasn't much of a concern. After stocking up on plenty of purified water, we bought 10 high-end water purifiers and lots of spare parts that might be prone to breaking so we could handle repairs ourselves. For electricity, my dad had it figured out too. They planned to install solar panels, and considering the marine environment, Uncle arranged for a batch of durable, waterproof, high-tech solar panels. With the sunny weather, we were entirely self-sufficient. However, I still bought 10 diesel generators as backups, but Eric, still worried, somehow managed to order 5 high-tech devices that generate electricity by splitting seawater. Eric, this equipment of yours is pretty advanced, my dad commented, clearly impressed. Eventually, my mom and aunt, through their connections, managed to secure a variety of medications like cold remedies and anti-inflammatory drugs, filling up an entire room with these daily necessities. After a busy month, our 2-story cabin was nearly filled to the brim, with shelves as tall as the cabin itself, efficiently using all available space. Later on, we continuously sourced nearly 5 tons of gasoline and diesel from various channels, stockpiling it as a reserve for the cruise ship. Once all preparations were complete, with only 2 weeks left before the zombie outbreak, we hurriedly transported all supplies to the ship. Only after everything was ready did we inform my brother. He looked at us in disbelief, as if he was about to call the mental hospital the next second. Mom, Dad, are you sure you're not dreaming? My dad glared at him irritably. Don't call me Dad anymore, you didn't inherit my intelligence. I didn't bother explaining either. I was busy preparing for a quick departure, checking the inventory with Eric. In their spare time, my dad and uncle also bought a lot of seeds, cabbage, potatoes, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, eggplants, and even a variety of fruit tree saplings, filling up a room. Who knows how long this will last? Food will eventually run out, but seeds are the real treasures, my dad said, proudly showing me their small vegetable garden on the ship's roof. I was genuinely impressed. Eventually, they also purchased fishing nets, hooks, and various other fishing tools, even equipping each of us with a set of farming tools, aiming for self-sufficiency. From now on, if we want to eat well, it's all on them, my dad and uncle boasted proudly. Inspired by them, I dragged Eric to buy a flock of rutting chickens that lay eggs, imagining a life of picking up eggs daily, to enhance our quality of life. With only a week left, Eric and I brought back loads of books, purchased many hard drives, and downloaded movies and educational materials that might be useful in the future. Meanwhile, my dad and uncle sat in front of a set of fine tea sets, savoring their tea. I found out that they had brought back a truckload of tobacco, alcohol, and tea leaves, even acquiring 2 exquisite tea sets. Suddenly, It felt like we were preparing for a vacation rather than fleeing a disaster, once everything was settled. I finally had a moment to relax and, overwhelmed by exhaustion, fell asleep on a makeshift lounger, sleeping soundly. When I woke up, I found myself in Eric's bed, with him lying next to me, my face turned red, and I kicked him awake. "What, you turn your back on me after sleeping?" Eric opened his eyes, looking as if he was the wronged one. "Why am I here?" My throat was dry, slightly nervous. "I carried you in." After a pause, he explained, "I couldn't open your room, and I was tired too." I gritted my teeth. "What do you mean couldn't open? It wasn't even locked." I stormed off, with Eric following closely. When we reached the deck, we found my dad and the others had already started a hot pot and were sipping red wine, all giving us meaningful smiles. My face flushed with embarrassment as Eric draped a jacket over my shoulders, then calmly walked over to the table to eat. My heart was in turmoil. Had the situation allowed, I would have run away. But the irresistible aroma of the hot pot made me stop in my tracks, betraying my resolve. We had planned to start our journey 5 days early. That morning, we discovered that my brother was missing. His phone was unreachable. Just as my mother was starting to panic, I received a photo from Green Tea. It showed a profile picture of my brother. I instantly flew into a rage, and Eric rushed with me to Green Tea's house. Just as I was about to knock on the door, Eric stopped me. "Why would she send you this photo out of the blue?" His words snapped me back to reality, and something clicked in my mind. Eric and I quietly left the building and parked our car in an alley opposite Green Tea's residential complex. From there, we had a clear view of the complex entrance without being seen. I picked up my phone and called Green Tea with the same warm tone I always used. "Sister-in-law, I'm at the entrance of your complex. Can you come down and meet me?" Green Tea responded quickly. After hanging up and waiting for about 15 minutes, I saw Green Tea appear at the entrance, followed by several men. They were not close, but Green Tea kept looking back, making it obvious they were together. As they got closer, my face turned pale. I would recognize these men anywhere. They were the same ones Green Tea had brought with her in my past life. Eric gripped my sweaty hand as Green Tea's call came through. It took me a while to answer. Just as the call was about to drop, a nauseating voice came through. "Victoria, where are you? I'll come to get you. I'm right at the entrance of your complex. Have you come out?" I said, suppressing my anger. After a long argument, I managed to convince her that I was at the wrong place. "Send me your location. I'll come to get you," Green Tea said, signaling to the men behind her, which I could see clearly. Of course, I wouldn't agree, pretending my phone was out of battery. I hurriedly ended the call. "My brother, that fool, must have told Green Tea about our recent plans," I said, frustrated. "Who are those men? Do you know them?" Eric asked sharply. "They are the ones who broke into my house in my past life. 3 years ago, they committed a robbery, and it was my father who called the police." I explained briefly to Eric. In my past life, they had escaped from prison during a zombie outbreak. I didn't know how they had gotten out early this time. "What do we do now?" I was worried. With only 5 days until the zombie outbreak, we couldn't leave my brother behind, nor could we let the tragedy of my past life repeat itself. "They're using your brother. They won't harm him easily, just make him suffer a bit," Eric said calmly, assessing the situation. For the next 2 days, I ignored Green Tea's calls. 3 days before the zombie outbreak, she lost her patience. By then, she had dropped her pretense. "I'll tell you. Your brother is in my hands, and he has already told me about your plans. If you want him to live, hand over your cruise ship and supplies." I agreed readily and arranged a time and place with Green Tea, a rundown warehouse near the coastline, the same one we had used for storage, but they had obviously done their homework. Unfortunately for them, I had already had my father move the cruise ship away. As Eric and I walked into the warehouse, the doors shut behind us, but with Eric by my side, I wasn't too afraid. Green Tea was clinging to a man with a bulky, unattractive face, wearing a flashy miniskirt, while my brother lay on the ground like a dead fish. Upon seeing me, my brother screamed in agony, "Go away, get out of here." His heart-wrenching cries echoed through the warehouse, making me feel somewhat embarrassed, so I just glanced at him briefly, then shifted my gaze to the smug Green Tea and the greasy man beside her, who looked slick enough to fry dishes. "You'd better tell your folks to send over the boat now, Or else we'll finish him off right here, Green Tea said as she stepped on my brother's face with her high heels, looking like she had done it countless times before. You believe whatever he says, I said disdainfully. I don't believe him, but I believe in myself. You think I can't handle your family if we start over, she finished, and my heart skipped a beat. She had also been reborn, but her timing was evidently a step behind mine. The advantage was still with me, knowing it was hard to fool her now. I needed to buy some time. After she spoke, my brother was already in tears, looking at the once gentle and compliant woman with deep sorrow. I don't understand what you're saying, I continued to feign ignorance. Then, I lectured Green Tea, exposing all her secrets in front of everyone, watching as her face grew uglier. Suddenly, figures flashed at the warehouse's back door, followed by smoke grenades being thrown in. As everyone panicked, Eric and I, covering our mouths and noses, made our way to my brother. Using all the strength I could muster from 2 lifetimes, I kicked Green Tea over, while Eric dragged my brother to cover. The warehouse was soon filled with shouts and cries, as the smoke cleared. A group of people had already been subdued. Seeing the heroic police officers, I wanted to mock the stupidity of Green Tea and her crew. Though the apocalypse was nearing, the police were still around, not to mention that the men beside her were prison escapees. It was foolish to think we were as naive as she. After thanking the police, we were about to leave when a familiar sound came from behind the warehouse. Roar. I felt a sense of dread, gripping Eric's hand tighter. Soon, 3 or 4 blood-covered figures entered, or rather, they could no longer be considered human, with only the whites of their eyes showing and their bodies twisted into horrifying shapes. Everyone was stunned. A policeman approached to check and was instantly surrounded by 3 or 4 zombies. Amidst the screams, the rest drew their guns and fired, but the bullets had no effect. Shoot the head, I shouted. Those who reacted started aiming at the zombies' heads, but due to poor marksmanship, several policemen were still bitten. As the situation worsened, Eric and I, dragging my brother, escaped through a hidden side door. As we neared the coastline, Green Tea somehow caught up, crying and begging my brother to take her with him. With a hard kick, my brother sent her tumbling to her knees, tears streaming down her face like they cost nothing. My brother's expression grew more painful. Little sister, she's just a girl, he began, but before he could finish, a zombie pounced. Green Tea stood up and hid behind my brother, and at the last moment, pushed him towards the zombie. I swung a metal rod at the zombie's head, splattering thick fluid all over my brother's face, which did nothing to hide the ugliness of his expression. Green Tea's face also turned sour, trying to reach for my brother, but this time he didn't even give her a glance. As I was waiting to see how it would unfold, another zombie approached me. By the time I reacted, Eric had already stepped in front of me and dealt with the zombie. That's great, let's take it easy for now, okay? He held me in his gaze, tender yet profoundly relieved. I nodded, unable to hold back my tears any longer, as they streamed down my face. Everything's going to be all right now, he murmured with a comforting assurance that eased the storm inside me. I'll go call Uncle and Aunt, I said as I dashed outside, knowing I looked a mess and couldn't let Eric see me like this. But in the next second, I found myself in someone's embrace, my heart racing as if it might leap out of my chest at any moment. Eric's stubble brushed against my neck as he whispered, Victoria, I'm sorry, and thank you. Over the next 20 minutes, Eric slowly revealed that he had been secretly in love with me for 13 years. So, it was you who liked me first, I said, a smug expression crossing my face despite it being streaked with tears and snot. Why then did you flirt with other girls? I remembered that summer a year ago, feeling somewhat indignant. He suddenly laughed. That was a senior from my department. She liked Nora, and I was just helping to set them up. Cousin Nora, that was a lot to take in. What about you two? I had some guesses but still wanted to hear him say it. His expression turned serious. I had planned to confess to you after your college entrance exams, but then I saw you confessing to another guy. I was so angry that I had my senior stage a scene to upset you. Little did I know, you heartless thing, you would end up going to a university in the north, and I didn't see you for 3 years. I thought you really didn't like me and never dared to reach out. I then remembered the graduation party where, during a game of truth or dare, they forced me to confess to our high school heartthrob. I was a bit drunk and thought I'd practice on him, agreeing without thinking it through. That game led us to miss out on so much time. I felt incredibly frustrated. After we opened up to each other, it felt like seeing the clear moon after the clouds parted. Baby, Eric shamelessly called out in front of my parents, aunt, and uncle at the celebration dinner that night. Everyone wore knowing smiles, as if they had known all along, but it still made me incredibly embarrassed. After dinner, I couldn't wait to settle the score with Eric, but in the end, he pinned me against the cabin door, silencing all my unspoken words with his kisses. Watching him retrieve something from the suitcase he had brought back last time, I felt like prey eyed by a hungry wolf. We ended up spending a sleepless night. We gradually adjusted our attitudes and started living like idle fish at sea, from initially getting seasick to eventually adapting well to life on the water. By the 30th day of the zombie outbreak, my dad and uncle were leisurely drinking morning tea, and in the cheerful afternoons, they would sit on the deck fishing in the sunset. Next to them, on the lounge chairs, my mom and aunt enjoyed sunbathing with their sunglasses on. My brother was still useless, playing video games all day and being despised by everyone. Eric and I were inseparable every day. I almost forgot about my rootin' chickens, and by the time I remembered, several had already starved. To ease my guilt, I decisively handed the task of caring for the chickens to my brother. He initially refused, but after I threatened him with his gaming hard drive twice, he relented. As for why not Eric, of course, he was too busy. By the 60th day of the outbreak, the internet had collapsed due to lack of maintenance, and we could only intermittently get news from the mainland through an old-fashioned radio. As we expected, the mainland was gradually falling, with humanity dwindling and cities turning into ghost towns. By the 120th day, official bases started to be established on land. By the 160th day, we could no longer receive any official news on the radio, and we guessed that the situation on land was definitely not optimistic. Our cruise ship has been anchored at a reef cluster for about a month and a half. Due to damage to the propeller from hitting rocks, we had to stop to avoid an accident in the waves. Fortunately, there are no zombies here, so our lives aren't greatly impacted. My dad and uncle's fishing skills have improved, and with Eric diving to gather seafood, we've been enjoying seafood feasts every meal. The only regret is that we ran out of fresh vegetables a while ago. Luckily, the small vegetable garden my dad planted has been doing well, allowing us to occasionally enjoy some chives and cabbage. Overall, I feel we are much happier than in our past life. Later, my dad and others wanted to expand the vegetable garden, but due to a lack of nutrient-rich soil, that plan had to be abandoned. Meanwhile, the rudd chickens my brother has been taking care of started laying eggs, and the first batch even hatched. Inspired, my dad used the eggs to hatch several chicks, which delighted everyone. After nearly 2 months at the reef, Uncle noticed that the fish they caught were discolored. We stopped eating the seafood, and after observing for a few days, we decided to leave. One night, while I was in Eric's arms, we suddenly heard a whistle, our prearranged signal for danger. We looked at each other and hurried outside. Just reaching the deck, we were met with a barrage of waves, instantly submerging me and slamming me against the bulkhead. Eric, disregarding his own safety, struggled to pull me back to safety and then went to help my dad. The cruise ship creaked ominously, sending chills down our spines. Half an hour later, as the waves slightly subsided, Eric, looking through binoculars, grew visibly more somber. I had a bad feeling, took the binoculars, and saw my worst fears confirmed. A 60-meter-high wave was rapidly approaching us. Quick, lower the lifeboat and hide behind the reef. Eric's voice trembled slightly. Without a second thought, I grabbed my mom and aunt and followed my dad to the stern, hoping we would all survive. By the time we all got into the lifeboat, the wave was upon us. Before we could react, we were swallowed by the sea. When I woke up, I found myself on a beach. Mom, Dad, are you okay? I asked hoarsely while checking everyone's safety. Thankfully, everyone was unharmed, but the memory of that experience brought tears to my eyes. When Eric approached, limping, I couldn't hold back and burst into tears. It's okay, aren't we all fine? He comforted me as I clung to him. My dad and uncle walked away coughing. My mom exchanged a helpless smile with aunt. After some time to recuperate, we realized we were on a deserted island with our ship nearby, leaning against a huge rock with visible cracks, at risk of sinking, so we abandoned the idea of returning to it. Eventually, We all agreed to stay on this island. Once we familiarized ourselves with the area, we confirmed it was a desolate island. We chose the highest point on the island to set up a temporary shelter. This was the flattest area on the island, backed by a 100-meter cliff, making it very safe. Importantly, there was a water source nearby, and although I was puzzled by the presence of a spring at such a high elevation, I couldn't help but feel relieved. Because we had carefully stored our supplies, we were somewhat prepared for this situation. After considering many scenarios, we came well prepared, so there was no need to worry about living a primitive life right from the start. After setting up several large tents, we didn't rest much and began moving our supplies like ants. Before the ship sank, we had to transfer all the supplies from the ship, since what we had used over half a year was only a small portion of our stockpile. This was a massive undertaking. Despite everyone being exhausted to the point of collapse, we couldn't afford to rest much. We took short breaks each day before resuming the transfer of materials. Moving everything that wasn't severely water damaged, this task continued for nearly 20 days until we had nearly moved everything. My mom and I started organizing our supplies at the campsite, arranging them by expiration date because without a foolproof plan, perishables would still go bad. We aimed to consume the items with approaching expiration dates first to minimize waste. Eric and my dad were also busy. They began dismantling the ship, salvaging everything from large furniture to small screws. I was amazed at the strength shown by 4 men who had previously lived comfortably. It proved that people have hidden potential, especially my brother, who used to struggle even to change a water dispenser bottle, was now chopping down trees without breaking a sweat, thanks to everyone's efforts. Within a month, not only had we emptied the ship of its supplies, but we had also built a simple wooden house next to our tents. We used banana leaves found on the island and paired them with the upscale furniture from our ship, gradually shaping a cozy home. We set up a small encampment using branches and iron plates from the ship, connected a solar generator, and established an electrical grid, allowing us to rest without worries on the remote island. Later, my dad led us in starting a vegetable garden, and we also planted every surviving fruit tree from the ship, watching my family working hard under the sun every day. I suddenly felt that my rebirth was quite harsh. Unlike others who had everything they needed in post-apocalyptic rebirths, I had to build my own house and farm the land. However, seeing my family enjoying tea together after a day's work filled me with a sense of deep satisfaction, making me think that living this way wasn't so bad after all. During this time, we also began exploring the island and were lucky to find mangoes, grapes, raspberries, wild apples, and jackfruit, which delighted us immensely. The whole family went out to gather these fruits. Besides keeping some fresh fruits to eat, we dried the rest and packed almost 50 boxes, giving us a sense of sudden wealth. Thus, we embraced a primitive lifestyle. Only the humming of the generator at night reminded us of the city life we once had. After about 4 months on the island, we saw a ship. We observed it for several days and noticed no one disembarking. Approaching cautiously, we found the deck deserted. When my brother opened the cargo hold, 2 zombies rushed out. Fortunately, he dodged them swiftly. After dealing with the zombies, we discovered the ship was abandoned. Presumably the crew had escaped on lifeboats. We were initially disheartened, but the mood quickly shifted as we found the cargo hold filled with supplies. Mountains of wheat flour and boxes of canned goods in various flavors, from meat to fruit, stood piled up, numbering in the hundreds. Additionally, there were many products with English labels, including chips, milk, and bread. Uncle even found several bottles of fine vintage wine, which brought a huge smile to my dad's face as he popped open a bottle to celebrate. Elated, we began the busy work of transferring these new supplies. With this, our provisions might last us a lifetime. After nearly 6 months on the island, it had been a year and a half since the zombie outbreak began. Unexpectedly, we saw a ship with people approaching. And there were quite a few of them. Everyone's faces were sickly pale, and it was clear they had been through a lot without needing to say anything. We all felt a bit uneasy. We stopped leaving the camp and minimized the use of the generator at night. However, our movements were too conspicuous, and on the morning of the 3rd day, a man dressed in army green came to find us. "Hello, I'm Gavin," he called out politely from outside the camp, introducing himself. We responded after he showed an indiscernible badge. "You must be aware of the situation on land. From the looks of it, you seem well prepared, he observed as he looked around our small camp. The mainland has completely fallen and is being swept with thermal weapons. I was in charge of Base 3. And now I am here with survivors to establish a base. He spoke with a military firmness, though not sternly. After learning about our situation, they began setting up their base about 800 meters from us and even provided us with a satellite receiver to keep us informed about the outside world. That's when we truly understood that the mainland had indeed completely fallen, with 90% of the population infected. It made us realize how right we were to choose to stay at sea, despite Gavin's multiple invitations. We chose not to join the base since our barren land had begun to yield crops and, combined with the supplies we had stockpiled, it was more than enough to sustain us generously for 2 lifetimes. Gradually, survivors started arriving on the nearby islands, everyone returning to nature, with the base leaders guiding them to cultivate the land and become self-sufficient. In the meantime, many bases, lacking seeds, exchanged goods for them. We managed to acquire some thermal weapons and sturdy materials to reinforce our camp yet again. More than 3 years after the zombie outbreak, more people arrived on our island, this time a group of soldiers and 3 elderly men wearing glasses. After some probing, we learned they were researchers studying the zombie virus, which had stalled due to the lack of an antidote. After much deliberation, Eric approached them. 9 months later, the zombie virus vaccine was successfully developed. And the mainland was nearly cleared. However, we were not informed to return to the mainland. According to Gavin, due to long-term paralysis of urban facilities and destruction caused by zombies, many areas were contaminated with radiation. With the human population reduced to 5%, continuing to live on the islands was the best option. After hearing this, my dad and uncle nonchalantly walked towards our small cabin, while my mom and aunt enjoyed afternoon tea in front of exquisite tableware. And my brother was busy in the vegetable garden. Eric and I exchanged smiles, and he gently touched my stomach. Home is wherever you are. Yeah, when the zombie virus broke out, my boyfriend's family tried to kick me out. I thought the worst that could happen was death, lamenting my poor judgment in choosing such a partner, never anticipating that my misfortune would extend to such depths. Unexpectedly, my boyfriend called my father, threatening to leave me for the zombies unless he brought supplies. If I had any strength left, I would have killed him first, but after being tied up and starved for 3 days by them, I had no energy to fight back and secretly prayed that my father wouldn't come. Against my wishes, I don't know how my father managed to get past numerous difficulties to arrive at their doorstep. Outside, my father knocked anxiously on the door, with the sound of zombies closing in behind him. My boyfriend's family, however, refused to open the door, fearing the zombies would get in. I struggled to break free from the ropes. Despite lacking the strength, I tried to crawl to the door but was stopped by my boyfriend's mother, who dragged me back by my hair. Eventually, my father, seeing no hope of getting in, resigned himself. Logan, I've brought the supplies. You need to keep your promise and take care of Layla. Layla, after I leave, take care of your mother and Leo. He died protecting me on the way here. I'm sorry for your uncle. My father's voice grew weaker, drowned out by the growls of the zombies and the sounds of feasting outside. Tears streamed down my face as I tried to go out despite the pain in my scalp, but I was beaten down by my boyfriend's parents and eventually passed out. When I woke up again, my boyfriend's family was plotting how to use me to distract the zombies so they could retrieve the supplies my father had traded his life for. I pretended to still be unconscious, silently crafting a plan until I was jolted awake by cold water. Crying, I begged to go find my father. Fine, since you want to find your father, you can leave my house now. My boyfriend, usually so refined, now had a face full of sinister scheming. I agreed but insisted on eating first. I didn't want to die hungry, especially not among people more terrifying than the zombies themselves. After they reluctantly watched me consume what little food was left, knowing more awaited outside, they urged me to leave quickly. My boyfriend kept saying that as long as I ran fast, I wouldn't get caught. Clearly afraid I might reconsider, he wanted me to lure the zombies away so he could safely retrieve the supplies. I couldn't believe I had fallen for such a man and felt like slapping myself. Feigning belief, I nodded in agreement as his parents snickered behind me. My boyfriend cracked the door slightly, and when I saw my father, now a wandering zombie in the hallway, tears involuntarily fell. Go on, run, He whispered urgently for me to draw the zombies away, but I suddenly turned, flung the door wide open with a loud bang. The zombies in the hallway, attracted by the noise, ran towards us. In a panic, my boyfriend tried to push me out, but I clung desperately to the door, using all my strength, yet unable to withstand the force of his entire family. Just as I was about to be pushed out, my arm got stuck in the doorway. Despite the flesh being torn from my bones, I refused to let go. The zombies soon began to bite into my body frenziedly. My last conscious thought, as they broke through the door, was a sense of relief at becoming part of the zombie horde. Pain, a feeling of being torn apart engulfed me. I opened my eyes and looked around, confused. Wasn't I torn apart by zombies and turned into one of them? Why was I still intact? Layla, you're awake. You slept for so long. Seeing the face of my boyfriend, the one who had pushed me out to the zombies, I couldn't hide the resentment in my eyes. Layla, why are you looking at me like that? Are you still upset about the demands my parents made? Aren't they just trying to help us have a home of our own? I bowed my head to hide my emotions, restraining the urge to tear Logan, that scumbag, to pieces. I remember he turned into a zombie. How come everyone else is fine? Suddenly, a bold guess popped into my head. What's the date today? It's October 1st. Have you gotten silly from your nap? October 1st. Have I been reborn? Reborn 7 days before the zombie outbreak, on October 8th, when the holiday ended and people gradually returned to work, that horrific morning unfolded with those disgusting creatures devouring people everywhere, that day. Because Logan's mother said the buns near my house were delicious, I got up early and drove an hour to deliver them. When I was about to go back to work, riots broke out downstairs, so I had to stay at Logan's place, never expecting to witness such ugly human nature. Thinking back, I never bought breakfast for my parents, yet I tried to please that beastly family. In the end, I not only harmed myself but also my loving father, and the regret was unbearable. Layla, come out and prepare dinner. How can you sleep so long after a nap? You're so young and already so lazy. Do I, an old man, really have to serve you? Logan's parents said sarcastically outside, their abusive actions vivid in my mind, their ugly true colors fully exposed. I struggled to calm the urge to kill this family of 3, managing a smile and saying that my dad had just texted me to come home. I used this as an opportunity to discuss with my parents about them wanting a down payment for their son's house. With the mortgage on me and their son's earnings to support the family, such schemers, hearing this, their expressions changed immediately, and they kindly urged me to go home and talk it over with my dad, all for our better life after marriage. I left the cramped 60-square-meter rental apartment as quickly as possible, unable to understand how I had ever fallen for Logan's sweet nothings. A rich family's daughter I was, and yet I chose to marry this so-called Phoenix man. Even fantasizing about my dad buying him a house and a car, shameless, indeed. On the way home, I called my parents to hurry back for an important discussion. Seeing my seriousness, they rushed back. Layla, why did you urgently call us back? Is it because you and Logan? My mother's worried eyes glanced at my stomach, thinking I was pregnant with that scumbag's child. My father looked furious and disappointed. He had never thought highly of Logan, not seeing him as a man to entrust my life to. It seems a man's judgment of another man is absolutely accurate. Logan is truly the worst of the worst. Mom, what are you thinking? How could I have a child with him? Didn't you tell me not to do that before marriage? Who knows who the last person I marry will be? I joked, linking arms with my mom while pulling my dad along, coquettishly resting my head on his shoulder. My dad, the best dad in the world. Suddenly, the tears I had been holding back fell, more and more fiercely. What's wrong? My darling, did that Mr. Song bully you? My usually stern-faced dad suddenly panicked. His daughter, who he had always cherished, had never cried so heartbreakingly before. I kept crying, repeatedly telling my dad I was sorry, that in my past life, I was the one who killed him, leaving both of them utterly confused. After calming my emotions, my mom poured me a cup of hot water, and the 3 of us squeezed onto the couch. I solemnly began to tell my parents about my past life. After all, I couldn't keep this from them. We needed to stock up on supplies within these 7 days, unsure if we could survive the impending disaster. After hearing about how Logan had pushed me out the door to the zombies, my dad clenched his fists and slammed them down on the coffee table so hard that the glass cracked. "Dad, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Foolish girl, you are my daughter. You don't need to apologize to me, no matter how many times. I will always come to save you. I am an only child." My mother's health declined after giving birth to me, so my dad decided against having more children. He never favored sons over daughters and always prioritized our family. That's what makes him a great man who loves his wife and daughter deeply. A man like Logan is not even worthy of being called human. Do you all believe me that there will be a zombie virus outbreak in a few days? I felt that, given their age, they would probably think their daughter was losing her mind. We believe you. My mom said with conviction. She mentioned that she had been restless lately, dreaming of my deceased grandmother who warned her to stock up and stay indoors. Naturally, my dad, who loves his wife dearly, believed us without condition. That evening, the three of us listed the items we needed to stock up on. Staying at home seemed safer in the face of an apocalypse. After all, my parents are elderly, and I, being a girl with no strength for fighting, would likely be the first to perish in any real conflict. We live in a high-end residential complex, one apartment per floor. On the 20th floor, which includes a rooftop garden, my mother loves gardening, and my father bought this place planning for a comfortable retirement, tending to plants and enjoying their days together. My father's business is doing well. He owns his own company. Right now, in October, all his employees have gone home for the holiday. The wealthy are traveling, so not many people are actually in the complex. He called his department to extend the employees' holiday by 2 days, advising them to stay home and stock up on food, which they could claim back from the company later as a form of employee benefit. Simply advising people to stock up might not catch on, but the reimbursement offer would likely encourage them to buy more. Layla, actually your mom and I have prepared a wedding house for you secretly. The apartment on the 19th floor below us is in your name. Once you have children and we are retired, we thought of helping you out by taking care of the kids and cooking for you. I felt a surge of warmth in my heart. Being their daughter truly made me feel fortunate. With both the upper and lower floors to ourselves, we could stock up even more, and having 2 levels also increased our safety. My parents planned for the next few days while I posted our apocalypse survival guide on popular websites from my room, warning of the impending end and advising others to stock up. Though many comments mocked me, suggesting I needed a hospital, the number of people who saved the post gave me some comfort. That night, Logan messaged me asking about the down payment for the house my dad was supposed to buy. I responded evasively, asking him to wait a bit longer until I could cheer up my dad. October 2nd, bright and early, the three of us, with clear roles, prepared to head out. My dad planned to pay a premium at a construction company to expedite the installation of the best explosion-proof glass and doors. Although our complex was upscale, the developers' materials weren't the best. With the apocalypse looming, it wasn't just zombies we had to worry about. If someone with bad intentions tried to break in, our family, lacking in combat ability, would be vulnerable. For things that money could solve, there was no need to overthink. After all, my dad wasn't short on cash. He mentioned just yesterday that a payment had cleared, and there were several million in his account, so we could spend boldly and without worry. If it really were the end of days, money would become useless, and possessing supplies would be the top priority for survival. My mom and I went to the mall and stocked up on daily necessities and warm clothing. Having more clothes to change into is better, as washing clothes, which is a common task now, would become a luxury if water and power were to be cut off. Daily necessities included tissues, wet wipes, sanitary pads, towels, toothbrushes, toothpaste, hand soap, disinfectants, body wash, shampoo, soap, and more. We got 5 sets of the warmest down jackets per person, thermal sweater sets, cotton socks, boots, slippers, and bought over a dozen quilts in case the weather turned unexpectedly. Just before leaving, we saw a store selling electric blankets and bought 2, along with 2 boxes of heat pads. Now we definitely won't be cold. By the time we finished shopping, it was already noon. Due to the bulk of supplies, the vendor offered free delivery. We gave them the address of my dad's company warehouse, which our family had agreed upon the night before. Before our home was fitted with explosion-proof glass and doors, we decided to store everything at the company warehouse to avoid any installation workers from seeing the vast amount of supplies and recognizing them as a potential risk in the event of an apocalypse. In the afternoon, I met up with Dad to go to a distant food wholesale market. Food, a highly sought-after resource in apocalyptic times, could attract trouble if discovered. So Dad suggested stocking up from a place further away. Once the zombie virus outbreak occurs, even if people think of our supplies, the distance and risks involved would likely deter them. We filled a large truck to the brim with 30 bags of rice, 20 bags of flour, 5 boxes of noodles, 10 boxes of instant noodles, 5 boxes of sausages, 10 boxes of bread, 10 boxes of compressed biscuits, and several boxes of snacks. Normally, a bag of rice would last 3 people in my family for a month. Since my parents love rice, we stocked up more, and these supplies would last us for several years. When loading the goods, the store owner jokingly asked why we bought so much. Dad responded with a laugh that it was for the company's October 1st overtime staff benefits. The owner praised my dad as a good boss, and Dad rode with him to deliver the goods to the company warehouse. On the way, Dad also subtly reminded the owner that he could take a good rest at home during the 7 days after October 1st and spend time with his family. After a busy day, our whole family was exhausted and went to bed early. In the middle of the night, Logan sent me a message asking if I had talked to my dad about buying a house. I was so sound asleep I didn't even see the message. The next day, I replied that Mom had agreed and now I needed to work on persuading Dad not to rush into it. October 3rd. The workers came early in the morning to install the explosion-proof doors and windows. Dad stayed home to help out. The workers, seeing that our home was newly renovated with good quality doors and windows, didn't understand why we needed such unnecessary upgrades. Dad even paid extra to have an iron door installed outside, making it look like a solid fortress. Dad had no choice but to use my illness as an excuse, claiming I had developed paranoid delusions and could only sleep peacefully with such security measures. When the workers saw me, they all looked at me with pity, leaving me utterly confused and pitiful in their eyes. In the morning, Mom and I went to a curtain store to order thick blackout curtains. Normally it would take 4 to 5 days, but with an extra payment, they could rush the order and have it ready by the day after tomorrow. Just in time for the installation of the explosion-proof doors and windows. In the afternoon, we ordered 2 sets of solar panels and asked the owner to prioritize installation starting tomorrow. We specifically arranged for them to come in the afternoon, after the door installation workers were done downstairs, to avoid any overlap. Then we went to an electronics store and bought 5 tablets, 5 phones, 2 telescopes, 3 drones, 4 surveillance cameras, and a series of other items. Filling up the trunk of our car, October 4th, Dad stayed home again. By morning, the explosion-proof doors and windows on the top floor were installed. The workers then rushed to work on the 19th floor. At noon, the technician came to install the surveillance system and finished within an hour. In the afternoon, the owner of the solar panels came personally to install them for us. The day quickly passed. Mom and I then bought a lot of soil and seeds, planning to turn the rooftop balcony into a vegetable garden. I've gone and bought about a dozen chicks, spending a good deal of money on constructing a soundproof chicken coop. Fish are Dad's favorite, so we set up a pond in a corner of the balcony to raise some. Mom and I also visited the fish market to pick up some essential supplies for fish keeping. In the evening, Mom and I spread soil and sowed seeds on the balcony while Dad mixed cement and sand to build a fish pond himself. It was another exhaustingly busy day. October 5th, the explosion-proof doors and windows have been installed, and the curtains have been hung. The solar panels are also set up, so we no longer have to worry about power outages. As long as there's sunlight, we'll have electricity. But just to be safe, I also bought an alcohol stove and several gas cylinders. And to prevent any accidents due to having too many gas cylinders, I got a number of fire extinguishers. Looking around the house, I felt like something was missing. It took me a while to realize I had forgotten to lay down soundproof mats. Zombies have keen hearing, and any noise at home could spell disaster. We also need to apply one-way vision film to the windows to prevent prying eyes. Even though we're on the 20th floor, it's better to be cautious. Dad and I went out to buy the vision film, which was readily available, and we could apply it ourselves. I paid extra to have the soundproof mats delivered today. Seeing the amount of money involved, the vendor promised to have them laid out by tonight. Indeed, spending money does bring its benefits. By around midnight, the soundproof mats were all laid out. From downstairs, I couldn't hear a thing when my parents were running, chopping vegetables, or cutting meat upstairs. The money was well spent. Today, Mom went to the nearby pharmacies to buy whatever medicines were available, just in case someone at home falls ill later. Logan messaged me in the middle of the night, wondering why I hadn't been in touch these past few days. I'd been so busy I hardly had time to think about him. I brushed him off, saying that I had spoken to Dad, who didn't strongly object but would consider it. I told Logan to look into which house he might want to buy, keeping him happy for a few days. October 6th, with time running tight. All the major installations at home have been completed. In the morning, Mom and I formed one team, and Dad went solo, buying 3 freezers from 2 different stores. All were in stock and delivered to our home within half an hour for an extra fee. 2 were placed on the 19th floor, and another on the 20th floor, where we live. We already had a double-door fridge there, which Mom had stocked up the night before. Now we just needed to do one big shopping trip to fill up the freezers. After buying the freezers, Mom and I went to a large supermarket to stock up on food to fill the 3 freezers. Meanwhile, Dad was taking care of a crucial task, ordering water. He split the orders among several stores, scheduling different delivery times to bring 100 barrels of water to our home, storing them in various rooms to avoid drawing attention. Dad is very cautious. He's terrified of failing to protect me like he felt he had in some past life. I overheard him talking about this with Mom during a late-night trip to the bathroom. Additionally, we ordered 100 cases of bottled water online, and fearing we might run out of daily use water, we placed 2 large water tanks on the rooftop. We have water purifiers and purification tablets ready, so we won't lack water if it rains. After a day of shopping, the freezers were packed with various meats, frozen foods, and durable items like canned meats, fruit, pickles, dried kelp, and dried mushrooms. It was another utterly exhausting day, and these past few days seemed to have exhausted my shopping desires. Back at home, we ordered takeout. It had been a long time since we'd had crayfish. We ordered many different flavors along with some side dishes to accompany drinks, enjoying a cheerful family meal that cleared away some gloom. In the evening, the 3 of us rushed to Dad's company to load up the pre-stocked goods onto a small truck, then parked it in the underground garage. Dad said we'd move it when there were fewer people around at midnight. For now, we went to the 19th floor to check on my bridal chamber. I tidied up the space where we could store supplies. When I first saw the wedding room my parents had meticulously prepared for me, it was entirely in my favorite style. Their thoughtfulness was evident, and I couldn't help but tear up. Dad changed the subject and went to start working with Mom. The room was still without its soft furnishings, so it felt quite spacious. As the night deepened, our family of 3 headed down to the basement. Fortunately, the parking space we bought was close to the elevator. Otherwise, the 3 of us moving so many items would have been exhausting. With the elevator unused in the dead of night, we went back and forth over a dozen times, stuffing it full on each trip, filling the house with food and necessities until we finally felt at ease. However, feeling at ease also came with a great deal of fatigue. Life lately had been nothing but high-intensity hustle for days on end. Taking a bath and sleeping felt incredibly comforting. When you're that exhausted, you sleep deeply. I hadn't slept this well in a long time. When I woke up, my parents had already left. They had left breakfast and a note on the table saying they had gone out for some errands. Logan had sent me several listings for new developments in the city center in the middle of the night. All were large flats with hefty price tags. He should know his salary couldn't possibly cover those houses. It seems he was taking me for a fool, but this time I wouldn't let him off easily. October 7th, the last day before the outbreak of the zombie virus. The hurried steps of people that morning looked so beautiful. I didn't know how the virus spread. In my previous life, I didn't even know the reason when that scumbag got me killed. After breakfast, just as I was about to call my parents to ask where they were, they returned, and they brought someone with them, a man. Layla, this is Leo. Over the years, I often heard my dad mention Leo, his preferred candidate for a son-in-law. Our families lived close to each other in our hometown, and our fathers were good friends. In my past life, I really disliked Leo because my dad, both openly and secretly, wanted me to meet Leo for an arranged date. I was so rebellious under Logan's influence that the more my dad tried to introduce me, the more I detested him. I even declared I would never marry Leo, probably breaking my parents' hearts. Yet, in the end, he died trying to save me in an effort to protect my father, filling me with immense guilt. "Hello, Leo, I'm Layla." I approached him to greet him. Leo was tall and well-built, towering over me. "Layla." He called my name with a familiarity as if he had heard it countless times from my parents. Leo had a pleasant voice, but his expression was cold and serious, his eyes deep. Dad took Leo to put away his luggage, and I pulled my mom aside to ask if they had told him about the virus. She said Dad had already informed him in the car. I always knew Leo would come. In my past life, he came with my dad to save me. I owed him a debt so large I didn't know how to repay it. This life, I was determined to protect them. On the last day we could go out, my dad asked me to take Leo to buy some necessities he needed. Driving the van, Leo was busy sending messages on his phone to someone. Leo's family now consisted only of him. His mother had died in a car accident when he was young, and his father had taken him away from our hometown to make a living. His business grew larger, eventually going public. However, a few years ago, Leo's father also passed away from illness, leaving Leo alone with a heavy responsibility. He was always busy, hardly touching the ground, and somehow he had reconnected with my dad. The two had been in contact privately. An hour later, at the 4S shop, this wastrel Leo spent $3 million on an armored SUV. They didn't have it in stock, so he took one from the showroom and had it sent for customization according to his specifications. Planning to pick it up around 5 or 6 o'clock, the saleswoman couldn't stop smiling. It was her first time seeing someone so generous with their money. She wanted to add Leo on WeChat, but he refused her request. Afterward, we headed to a nearby hardware street and bought a lot of protective gear: large hammers, fire axes, stun guns, household chainsaws, and escape ropes. We got as much as we could prepare. Originally, my plan was to just stay at home and take it easy. I hadn't considered what to do in case of an emergency that required going out. Although he is reserved and speaks little, he thinks things through quite comprehensively. No wonder my dad admires him so much. For lunch, we had my favorite crab roe pasta from a usual spot. I figured I should enjoy a good meal now, as there might not be another chance later. Since it was still early, I suggested we stock up on some items at the mall ahead and also pick up some daily necessities for Leo. My card has no limit. With that statement from Mark, I began a shopping spree. 3 hours later, I was exhausted. A group of clerks followed us, and Leo helped them load the items into the truck while I went to have a coffee break. "Layla, you shameless woman!" A woman's shrill scream attracted the attention of passers-by. "Layla, how dare you fool around with another man behind Logan's back? Have you no shame?" Logan's mother accused me haughtily, her face twisted in anger, looking utterly hideous. I calmly sipped my coffee and slowly asked her, "Which eye of yours saw me fooling around? And what about your precious son embracing another woman, or chatting up younger girls? Is that not fooling around?" These issues from my past life that I didn't want to face. Now I see through them and don't feel embarrassed to speak out since I'm not the one who did anything wrong. Our Logan is not like that. It's those women who throw themselves at him because they see he's a catch. You marrying my son was a blessing from your past life. Now you're just like those disgraceful women, flirting around with men. Rich upbringing doesn't necessarily bring up good people. As the old hag ranted, I felt my anger rising and threw my warm coffee in her face. You wretch, how dare you splatter coffee on me? I'll tear your mouth apart." As the old witch tried to slap me, I grabbed her raised hand and slapped her back. She could insult me, but the moment she dared insult my family, I had to set her straight. She really thought she could do whatever she wanted. Being older, she couldn't overpower me, and just then, Leo came back and shielded me. The old hag had no choice but to sit on the ground, crying and making a scene. "I will make sure Logan divorces you. As long as I'm here, you'll never be welcome in the Song family." She cursed as she called Logan. I didn't want to waste my time watching their mother-son drama. Before leaving, I said, "It's better if Logan breaks up with me. It'll save my dad the down payment for the house." When it came to money and interests, the old witch didn't dare to continue her scene. Throughout the ride, Leo stayed silent, just driving. I didn't want to talk about that disgusting family. They had a hand in harming Leo in the past, and I was determined to have them pay. All the bad mood dissipated when I saw Leo holding several jars of crab meat sauce, filling me with happiness. But soon after, when Logan called, my happiness vanished again. Logan kept apologizing on the phone, saying his mother had misunderstood me and that he trusted I was not that kind of person. He even cautiously asked when my dad would contribute money for the house. My dad was supposed to discuss with your family tomorrow about which house to buy, but after what your mom did today, what do you expect me to do? Logan apologized again, saying since my dad had planned to discuss it tomorrow, we should proceed as planned, and asked me to wait for him at home. Yesterday afternoon, she insulted me, so I ended up slapping her. How could she have the face to come to my house tomorrow? She seems to have no shame or self-respect at all. I specifically reminded him that buying a house is a big deal and it should be discussed with both families involved. I told him to bring his parents tomorrow, and Logan repeatedly agreed. Logan still can't afford a car, so he usually takes the subway. Tomorrow, Line 3 will be a living hell. October 8th. The first day of the zombie virus outbreak. It was barely dawn, and I couldn't sleep, so I was scrolling through my phone. There was no information online yet, probably because the holiday just ended and everyone was still asleep. My parents and Leo were already up. After breakfast, Dad and Leo went downstairs to check the supplies and lock up the safety door and fire escape. I asked Dad to take the shoe rack from in front of our apartment on the 20th floor downstairs. Pretending that someone lives on the 19th floor, we also posted a rental notice on our door on the 20th floor, making the paper look old and dated from 6 months ago, to give the impression that no one lives there. The scariest thing in this apocalypse is not the zombies, but the people with ulterior motives. Although our family has now gained a strong man, if there are more attackers, we would still be outnumbered. As planned, the sensor glass doors at the entrance should be closed. Dad went down quietly to cut the wires. The elderly who wanted to go out for morning exercises early in the morning were furious and complained downstairs. The property management contacted a repairman who was supposed to come after 8, but there was nothing they could do but give up. Since each elevator requires a residence card to access, we aren't worried about zombies using it to reach us. Moreover, the 19th floor is also ours, providing a 2-floor buffer. Soon after, a loud crash as a car hit the main gate of the complex gathered a crowd of onlookers. At first, everyone crowded around to see what happened until the driver climbed out in a bizarre posture. His eyeballs were white, his face was a mess with exposed jawbone, his limbs hung loosely, and his innards were hanging out. He seemed to feel no pain as he got up from the car and immediately grabbed someone nearby to bite their neck, even tearing off a piece of flesh to chew. The onlookers, mostly elderly from the opposite building, were horrified and started to retreat. They were not agile enough to run fast and were quickly overwhelmed by the zombie driver, and one by one, they turned into zombies, creating a gruesome scene of people biting each other below our building. Those who reacted quickly headed to the nearest property management office, but the property manager and a security guard who ran in ahead of them closed the door. People outside were screaming for help. But inside, the door was locked and even barred, completely disregarding the lives of those outside. Soon, those crowded at the door suffered as more zombies gathered at the property management door, and the glass door couldn't withstand the impact of so many zombies. Eventually, the door broke, and the two inside also became part of the zombie horde. Some of the injured managed to escape back to their homes, and soon after, screams could be heard from those apartments. My mom was so disgusted by the scene that she vomited her breakfast. Dad was taking care of her in the room. If it weren't for our past experiences, I probably couldn't have endured either. Leo, on the other hand, seemed unaffected, just frowning as he stood with me at a corner of the window observing the situation outside. The building across from us had fallen, and the residents of our building probably had to thank the malfunctioning sensor door that coincidentally saved their lives today. Asterisk. At the same time, on subway line 3, the entire carriage was stained with blood. Zombies were devouring humans, and screams of terror filled the air as people rushed towards the subway exits, causing a crush. Logan, his face smeared with blood, was among those running towards the subway exit, followed by his mother, whose usual arrogance was gone. Her hair, neatly done earlier, was now disheveled, and her eyes were filled with terror. gripping her son's hand tightly. She feared losing him in the chaos. Just moments ago, the family of 3 had been cheerfully discussing future home purchases, thinking about compensating Layla for the slap she endured yesterday. Suddenly, disaster struck. In less than half an hour, most of the people on line 3 had turned into zombies. Logan's father fell behind during the escape and was devoured by zombies. Logan and his mother also had to push through the crowd to move forward. As they neared the subway exit, Logan felt victory was close at hand, but unexpectedly, the person next to him began to turn into a zombie after being scratched. The people around screamed in panic, but the crowd was too dense to escape, and the newly mutated zombie quickly attacked those nearby. Logan quickly pulled his mother in front of him to shield himself, and she was clawed in the face by the zombified person, her face instantly covered in blood. Logan's mother couldn't believe her son used her as a shield against the zombie, looking at him in disbelief. Seizing the moment, Logan pushed some smaller, weaker people ahead of him and then stepped back from the grisly scene, heading towards the subway exit. Outside the subway, the situation wasn't much better. With zombies everywhere chasing and biting people, and the streets littered with dismembered limbs, his heart sank. On the first day of the zombie outbreak, our family spent it amid constant screams. As evening approached, a few lights turned on in the building opposite, while many more were lit in our building, and screams continued to emanate from across the street. Having experienced this in a past life, I knew to stay in a small room at Logan's house, where we could only pass the time by watching the zombies from the window. Noting their sensitivity to light and noise, anxiously, I wondered how to warn everyone not to turn on lights or make noise. Just then, the house that had turned on the air conditioning was met with continuous screams. The external unit was particularly loud in the dark night, quickly attracting zombies. A sudden idea came to me. I ran to a room stocked with electronic products and found a drone I had purchased. Having played with drones as a child, I quickly figured out how to use it. As I was recording a message on my phone to remind everyone to keep lights off and stay quiet, Leo stopped me. He suggested I use a voice-changing app to alter my original voice before recording again. He was being cautious, which was good. Otherwise, in my anxiety, I might have exposed our location and identity. I tied the recorded message to the drone and launched it from the rooftop. The message, set to play after 2 minutes, rang out in the silent night, a male voice advising everyone to turn off lights and remain silent. Soon after, the previously lit homes went dark, except for a few overrun by zombies, now silent and empty. I then controlled the drone to circle back to the rooftop. There wasn't much I could do, but I hoped my past life experience might save even just one more person. That night, we set up a schedule for taking turns keeping watch, ready to respond to any emergencies. During the day, my parents took 12-hour shifts. At night, it was Leo and me. Leo let me take the first half of the night, and he took the latter. Seeing that I hadn't eaten much today, Leo cooked some light noodles for supper. I hadn't expected such a busy executive to be able to cook, and it was quite delicious. After eating, I volunteered to wash the dishes, and Leo told me to go to sleep. Lying in bed, I felt wide awake. I turned on my phone, and all the trending news was about the zombie outbreak, the spreading virus, a school overrun, people in a residential area calling for help. Even videos of zombies eating people were being widely shared online. Feeling heavy-hearted, I knew this was just the beginning. Soon, people would run out of food and venture out. Zombies would multiply, and with the internet, electricity, and water possibly cut off, state aid wouldn't arrive in time, and many would die this autumn. I got up and started drafting a survival guide on my computer, hoping to share it while the internet was still up, so it could reach as many people as possible. Make sure that everyone at home keeps the lights off and stays quiet, stock up on food and water, and be aware of significant changes in temperature. Prepare warm clothing and other essentials I've thought of. Here are some insights on zombies. They prefer moving under the sun during the day, which makes them move faster. But they gather in warm places at night due to the cold and move slower than during the day. Most importantly, a zombie can only be killed by decapitating its head. If resources become scarce later, it's best to move at night. Forming groups with strong men might give you a chance to break out. I wrote this apocalypse survival guide and posted it on a forum. Initially, no one seemed to read it, so I turned off my computer and went to sleep. However, I had a nagging feeling that something bad was going to happen, which left me feeling uneasy. That night, I slept fitfully, and I was awakened by a pleasant voice calling me. It was Leo. It was the first time a strange man woke me up, and I felt a bit embarrassed, not knowing what my sleeping posture had been like. Leo, with his furrowed brows, urged me to get up and check outside quickly. Immediately, I was wide awake, sensing that something was wrong. To my shock, when I looked down from our building, I saw someone smashing the glass door with a stick. That person was Logan, who had said he would come to my place and asked my dad to help him with a down payment for a house. No wonder I felt uneasy last night. I could never have imagined that Logan would make it out of the subway alive, let alone make it safely to my building from such a distance. There were almost no zombies near my building, mostly near the building across and the property management office, but now, the noise in the quiet early morning was particularly jarring. Using binoculars, I saw a horde of zombies attracted by the noise heading our way from the other building and the distance. Damn it, who's the maniac? Stop smashing it. Damn it, kid, if you keep smashing, I'll come down and kill you. Residents from the lower floors came out to scold Logan, but he was determined and smashed the glass even faster, shattering it completely. Logan wanted to take the elevator but didn't have an access card, so he had to climb the stairs. The residents who had been cursing just now fled back to their homes as a large group of zombies reached the building and started pouring in through the broken door. Soon, screams echoed from the lower floors. My hands trembled as I held the binoculars. Logan, that vile man, had endangered so many lives just to save his own. Before long, there was urgent knocking at my door from Logan. Layla, open the door quickly. Layla, standing inside, I watched his desperate and disheveled appearance through the peephole, feeling satisfied. What did he and his family do when my dad asked them to open the door? They had time to let my dad in, but they let him be bitten to death by zombies. I wanted him to experience that same despair. Layla, it's Logan, please save me. My parents died in the subway on their way to your place. Please, let me in. Logan became more desperate, fearing the zombies behind him would catch up, leaving him with no escape. My parents woke up from the noise, and seeing the people outside, my dad sternly warned me. Layla, don't be soft-hearted. He's not worth it. Dad, I know. I felt no sympathy for him, and even my usually soft-hearted mom firmly didn't say a word of comfort and went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. I turned on the intercom on the monitor and asked Logan, did you bring any supplies? In his past life, he had demanded my dad bring supplies to save me. I was going to return the favor. Logan was stunned. Supplies, that was the last thing on his mind, and he was utterly confused by the question. Please, Layla, open the door quickly. There are monsters outside. Let me in, or I'll listen to everything you say from now on. You're my queen, Logan said, his flattering words accompanying his anxious pleas to the surveillance monitor. He looked like he would kneel if it would help his case. Why should I let you in without any supplies? Do you expect to freeload off me, eat and stay for free, or perhaps you want my dad to buy you a house and a car? How can you be so shamelessly thick-faced? I retorted coldly, in the face of my sarcasm. Logan finally dropped his pretense and exploded in anger. Layla, are you trying to kill me? How can you be so cruel? It's all because you invited us to discuss buying a house that we even took the subway. You're the reason my parents are dead. Do you want to kill me too? Even if I turn into a zombie, I won't let you go, you evil woman. Logan continued to curse outside, his loud voice attracting zombies from downstairs. Seeing that I wouldn't open the door, he quickly silenced himself and fled, thinking of escaping. No way. I launched my drone to track where Logan was escaping to, and found him on the 5th floor in a room overrun by zombies, trying to escape downstairs using a rope made from bed sheets. With zombies mostly inside the building, the exterior was nearly clear of them. I turned on the drone's lights to attract the zombies. As Logan was about to reach the ground floor, a swarm of zombies appeared there, drawn by the sight of fresh prey. They bared their teeth, eager to devour him. Logan was so frightened he wet himself, trying desperately to climb back up. But he lacked the strength to ascend from the ground floor. The bedsheet was slippery, and his body uncontrollably slid down. The zombies, drawn by the scent, grabbed his ankles. He fell among them, and his screams were quickly muffled by the sounds of gnawing. I retrieved my drone, feeling a surge of relief as the scumbag died. Turning around, I saw Leo had been watching me the whole time. His deep eyes filled with an indescribable emotion. I joked self-deprecatingly. You better not mess with me in the future. I might be the most ruthless woman in the world, and might just kick you out to feed the zombies on a bad day. Leo walked toward me, towering over me, and I had to look up at him. He smoothed my hair, which was as messy as a bird's nest. He got what he deserved. Layla, you're the best girl I've ever met. I blushed, unaccustomed to such sincere compliments from someone who usually seemed so cold. In the following days, with zombies just outside, everyone was on edge, subsisting on simple self-heating rice and instant noodles. The post I made that day reached over 1 million shares, and my initial guide on stockpiling supplies also gathered hundreds of thousands of bookmarks. I was gratified, hoping it would help others a bit. These past few days, Leo has been using the computer in my room, intensely researching something and taking notes. Since my room was the only one with a computer, I couldn't very well kick him out. I just pretended he wasn't there. My parents tactfully closed our door, openly encouraging a match between us. I admired their ability to still worry about my marital prospects in such apocalyptic times. The next afternoon, I became more adept at controlling the drone, still tethered to that phone, playing songs in the neighborhood below. The sound drew the zombies in the building hallway away, and I checked the monitor to see that the zombies at the entrance had left, which gave me much peace of mind. Half a month since the zombie virus outbreak, we were without electricity and internet. More and more people in the community wanted to escape, especially since many didn't have enough food stockpiled. Half a month was already pushing their limits. Initially, a couple of young guys quietly drove out of the community in the middle of the night, speeding away. Others, strong and able-bodied, grouped together, killed a few zombies, and escaped. Their success stirred restlessness in many others. That night, I saw a family of 4 across the building, a family consisting of parents, their young son around 7 or 8, and a grandmother in her 60s, successfully made their way downstairs. Their car was parked not too far away. The father quickly got into the driver's seat while the mother and the child climbed into the car as well. The elderly grandmother, moving slowly, took the front passenger seat. Just as I was relieved to see them safely in their car, pandemonium broke out. The child inside the car suddenly started throwing a tantrum, demanding that his grandmother buy him some snacks. The grandmother, feeling sympathetic, decided to get out and sit in the back to comfort him. However, as she opened the door to the back seat, a zombie, appearing out of nowhere, attacked her, knocking her to the ground. It was too late for the mother to close the door, and the noise from the child's tantrum attracted more zombies. Soon, a horde of zombies surrounded the car, banging on the windows. Tragically, the entire family fell victim to the zombies. One sleepless night, I joined Leo at the window to keep watch. We saw a man leave the building safely, but to our horror, he returned as a zombie, aimlessly wandering around the ground floor clutching 2 cans of milk powder, until he bumped into other zombies, causing the milk powder to fall to the ground. Shortly after, a woman stealthily made her way downstairs and hid trembling in some bushes. I assumed she must be the mother of a child, taking such a risk to retrieve the milk powder. I quickly went back to my room to fetch a drone and flew it downstairs to distract the zombies. The woman swiftly grabbed the milk powder and ran back. I wasn't sure if she made it home safely to feed her baby, but I had done everything I could. In these apocalyptic times, everyone must fend for themselves. A month into the zombie virus outbreak, the water supply was cut off. Leo has been quite busy these days. After sleeping during the day, he always goes downstairs to tinker with something for hours. He doesn't talk about his activities, and I don't bother to ask. Normally, November would be a time of crisp autumn air, but this year the weather is eerily cold, with chilling winds that unsettle the mind. I've always been sensitive to the cold. During winter, my menstrual cramps are so severe that I toss and turn all night. Last night, my period started, and I didn't sleep at all. The next day, I lay in bed like a zombie, exhausted and with dark circles under my eyes. I handed over my night shift duties to Leo, but as I struggled to sleep, Leo knocked on my door. The usually reserved man came in with a basin of hot water, which he placed before my bed, leaving me speechless. I never thought I'd have a man prepare a foot soak for me in this lifetime. After soaking my feet, I felt warm and refreshed. Having slept during the day, I was wide awake at night and joined Leo in the living room to keep watch, afraid I might get cold. Leo gave me several heat packs and was brewing some brown sugar ginger tea in the kitchen. I teased him, asking how he knew so much about taking care of someone, wondering if it was from experience with a girlfriend. Leo explained that he learned these methods from asking my mother and assured me he didn't have a girlfriend. His mature responses were always reassuring and comforting. These days, my parents are also busy, tending to the vegetables on the rooftop, feeding the dwindling number of fish, and caring for the chickens that are getting bigger and might start laying eggs in a month. After suffering through my menstrual period, my resistance was low, and I fell ill with a persistent fever. Fortunately, we had a good stock of medicine at home, otherwise, it would have been tough to get through these apocalyptic times without fever medication. It's not even the peak of winter yet, and the temperature has already dropped below zero. Our family has started wearing down jackets. During the day, my parents took care of me, and Leo looked after me at night. I was half delirious, caught in a haze of feverish dreams. In my dreams, I saw zombies attacking my father and me. In one dream, Leo came to our rescue, and I hugged him and kissed him, even asking him if he wanted to marry me. Just as I was about to hear his answer, noises from a heated argument downstairs woke me. I woke up soaked in sweat but relieved to feel much lighter without the fever weighing me down. I got out of bed and went to the living room, where my parents and Leo were already observing the situation outside. I joined them, peering through the binoculars to see what was happening. Leo habitually reached out to touch my forehead and, finding that my fever had gone down, nodded in satisfaction. My parents smiled meaningfully, but it was still crucial to check the situation outside. Downstairs, a group of thugs had formed a team specifically to plunder households still in possession of supplies. Initially, they targeted the building opposite ours, searching each floor and looting indiscriminately. They did not care even as their actions attracted zombies. They simply left the doors open and moved on to another level, effectively feeding the living families to the zombies. Hours later, the group arrived at our building and gradually made their way up to the 19th floor. They managed to pry open the safety door of the fire escape and were delighted to see a shoe cabinet by the entrance door. Eagerly attempting to break in, however, the door proved impenetrable. No matter how hard they smashed it, the loud noises they made attracted many zombies that were now heading their way. The gang leader ordered them to stop and instead, they moved up to our floor, the 20th. Seeing the notice for rent on the security door, they decided to give up and withdrew downstairs. Unexpectedly, a small precaution I had taken proved somewhat effective, although I knew they couldn't break through the door. I couldn't help but worry. This time it was just small-time thugs, but who knows who it might be next time. I hope our luck continues. After that incident, Leo's trips downstairs became more frequent. 3 months after the outbreak of the zombie virus, our chickens had started laying eggs. Before the chickens started laying, our family relied on fish for protein. Now that we had run out of fish, it was just in time for the chickens to lay eggs. My mother, responsible for our family's dietary health, was particularly pleased. As the end of the year approached, the weather grew colder. We only ventured to the rooftop to enjoy the sunshine during sunny days. Otherwise, we huddled at home. Fortunately, we had prepared well in advance, stocking up on heat packs and electric blankets. While the younger ones might have managed without them, it would have been unbearable for my elderly parents to go through the nights without electric blankets. Previously, we could have used the air conditioner, but now turning it on would attract zombies with its noise. In this post-apocalyptic world, the most terrifying thing isn't just the zombies. If people with ill intentions knew that we were still living here, we would become a target. My worries came to a head sooner than expected. That day, after feeding the chickens on the rooftop, I used a drone to survey the nearby area. The images transmitted back were horrific. Streets littered with body parts and crashed cars, with a few zombies staggering around, the smell of decay everywhere. However, there seemed to be fewer zombies than before. Perhaps they had moved elsewhere, or maybe they had starved without humans to eat. After collecting some eggs and putting the free-roaming chicks back into their coop, Leo helped me retrieve the drone. Once the chicks were settled, Leo suddenly urged me to look at the drone's monitor. Not far from our complex, a military vehicle was approaching. I quickly maneuvered the drone out of their line of sight and flew it back home. We closed the balcony and went downstairs to the living room to observe where the vehicle was heading with binoculars. Eventually, it entered our complex, and 10 men in military uniforms disembarked. My mother, seeing the uniforms, thought that the army had come to rescue us and considered signaling them. However, Leo said they weren't real soldiers. Upon closer observation, we noticed their casual demeanor. They lacked the discipline of military personnel. Unlike the previous gang of thugs, these men were armed. The zombies downstairs, who hadn't fed on humans for a long time, were thrilled at their appearance. However, before the zombies could get close, they were shot in the head, and applause erupted from somewhere in the building. Then, using a loudspeaker, they announced to the survivors in the buildings to come down, promising to take them to a safe base with food and water, and a secure environment. Initially, no one went down, but then, the group marked off an area at the base of the building and started unloading boxes of water and food from the vehicle, tempting those above. Eventually, one man went down, and they gave him food and water, instructing him to stay in the military vehicle. People behind them thought they were genuinely there to escort them to a safe base, so they gradually came down. About an hour later, more than 20 people had gathered downstairs. Whenever a woman passed by, those men revealed sleazy smiles in their glances. Just as they were about to transport these 20-odd people, suddenly, an accomplice whispered something to another leader who then looked up towards my building, frightened. I quickly covered the corner of the curtain, not daring to look through the binoculars again. "It's okay, don't be scared," Leo comforted me from behind, and I calmed down, thinking that we had privacy film on our windows, so no one outside could see our movements. However, this comfort was short-lived. Within minutes, the sound of a group's footsteps reached the door downstairs, and my heart raced again. We quickly checked the surveillance footage. It didn't take long for these people to break open the stairwell door of the 19th floor's fire escape. The sight of a shoe rack at the entrance made them even more certain that someone was living there. "Boss, I clearly saw a drone flying towards this building," the man referred to as the boss first knocked, claiming to be sent by the military, but when no one responded, he ordered someone to try to break in the door with an axe. After several unsuccessful attempts at chopping the door and then shooting at it, the frustrated voice of the leader cursed loudly. "Damn, it's a bulletproof door. Looks like the people inside are no simpletons." Because of the noise they made, more zombies started to converge on the area, forcing them to retreat as they struggled to manage the growing number of undead. Soon, the military vehicle left the neighborhood, and peace was restored. Our family of 4 sighed in relief. My mother collapsed on the floor. "If those people had found us upstairs, it would have been disastrous. I'm sorry, it was my fault they spotted the drone." "You did well," my parents reassured me. Leo patted my head like one would a puppy, urging me to rest for a bit, assuring me he was there. That night, we had a hot pot to soothe our frightened nerves from the day's events. "Since they've spotted the drone, let's use it to see where they've taken the people from the neighborhood." I still felt uneasy, worried about what they might do to those people. Leo, agreeing with me upon my insistence, let me deploy the drone to scout the area. I eventually located those monsters in an abandoned factory not far from our neighborhood. They were dubbed monsters for a reason. They had stripped the women they captured naked and violated them, while the fate of the men was unknown. The next day, I saw some of the men who had walked with those monsters among the zombies wandering below our building. Immediately, Leo suggested we move the supplies upstairs, as it was only a matter of time before our presence downstairs was discovered. Leo used the drone to check the situation with zombies in the stairwell, finding most gathered on the 15th floor, armed with an axe. Leo guarded the stairwell of the 19th floor while the 3 of us moved our belongings. Though we left some items to make it look like a looting had occurred, under Leo's strict and careful instructions, I cautiously moved a large box from one of the rooms upstairs. This was the first time he had given me such detailed and cautious instructions. Normally, he was a man of few words, always silently getting things done, not like Logan, that scumbag who spoke nicely but never actually did anything for me. I still don't know what I was thinking when I fell for him. In the following days, those people never returned, and New Year's Eve arrived. My mom made dumplings with pork filling, cooked a few hearty dishes, and we opened a bottle of red wine, dining to our heart's content. Being able to survive the apocalypse as a family and celebrate the new year together was the happiest thing imaginable. Layla, This is the happiest New Year I've ever had." While on duty that night, a man who had always kept to himself suddenly spoke, and I wondered if he had had too much to drink. Thinking about his family situation, had he been spending the New Year alone all these years? A wave of sadness washed over me. "From now on, let's spend every New Year together." "Agreed, it's a promise." This was the first time I saw Leo smile so brightly. His usually stern face was softened by a warm glow. He looked surprisingly handsome when he smiled. I was captivated for a long time. 5 months after the outbreak of the zombie virus, snow began to fall after the New Year. Continuing for a whole month, the cold was biting, and the streets were nearly empty of zombies. I bundled up like a ball and went with my dad to check on the chickens on the rooftop. The sun had finally come out, and the wind was less piercing. My mom had made a heating pad for the chickens to keep them from freezing, and the water in the fish tank had frozen over. While I was playing with the chickens, the rumbling sound of an airplane came from the sky, broadcasting a message through its loudspeakers. "Attention all survivors, the government has established an underground safety base in the east of the city. Please consider heading there." The message repeated over and over as the plane flew away. After this snowy ordeal, the number of humans left must have dwindled. Having experienced the brutality of certain groups before, we became much more cautious, even though the announcement seemed reliable. But we had enough supplies and decided not to venture out. It wasn't worth the risk of encountering danger on the road. However, trouble still found us one warm afternoon. A familiar military vehicle stopped below our building. The same brutes from before had come to our floor. Soon, I heard the sound of them smashing doors and shouting downstairs. With the extreme cold, the zombies were nowhere to be seen, emboldening these people. My family stood frozen in front of the surveillance monitor. But within moments, those people brought out explosives, intending to blast the door open. My heart raced. They actually had explosives. Although our door was bulletproof and fireproof, explosives could cause immense damage, easily capable of destroying the building. With a loud boom, the walls of our building shook, and the surveillance feed went dark, probably destroyed by the blast. My parents and I pressed our ears against the door. The intruders cheered as they entered, searched all the rooms without finding anyone, and then discussed settling down there. For the next few days, we were extremely cautious, taking turns watching the surveillance and listening for any sounds from downstairs. The intruders had barricaded the blasted door with cabinets and made themselves comfortable. The bridal suite my parents had prepared for me, which I hadn't even lived in yet, was being ruined by these brutes, and it upset me deeply. We didn't cook for days, fearing any noise might alert those downstairs, but no matter how careful we were, danger eventually arrived. That night, I was on duty when the safety door of the fire escape on the 20th floor was loudly smashed. We all got up. Leo had already prepared defensive weapons by the door, and we all stood ready, armed, but eventually, the person left without getting through. Yet, none of us could sleep, realizing it was only a matter of time before we were discovered. Leo became even more reticent since those people had taken over downstairs, spending more time alone in his room. On the third day, in the afternoon, the fire escape door on the 20th floor was forcibly broken open, and the group gathered at our doorstep. Through the door's surveillance, we could see their fierce and menacing faces, ready to break through the main door. The boss, I felt something was off about this floor that night, despite the rental sign. "Would it be locked so securely if no one lived here? You're pretty sharp, kid. If we hit it big today, you get first dibs on whatever you want. If there's a beauty around, then I'm really in for a treat." Listening to their crude banter, my parents and I were on high alert, our hearts pounding like the relentless banging on the door. Leo gave me a look, and I opened a window that hadn't been opened for several months, using the drone. The foul stench of decay that wafted in was nauseating. According to the plan I had anticipated, I used the drone to lure the zombies over to scare those people away, but when I deployed the drone, the images it sent back made my hands tremble uncontrollably on the controller, a sense of despair washing over me. Leo, seeing that I wasn't returning, and hearing those outside discussing blowing up the door like last time, was sent by my parents to check on me. Approaching, Leo saw the shocking images displayed by the drone and his expression turned grave and stern. The drone showed countless zombies gathering together, forming a horde that was slowly moving towards our area. It was unclear whether it was the warmer weather or the recent explosion that had drawn their attention, but either way, the zombie horde was heading straight for our community, at their pace. It was estimated that they would reach the base of our apartment building in about half an hour. Just as those outside were preparing to use explosives, Leo opened the door. As the door opened, the people outside were equally surprised that someone was opening it, and they put down their explosives. Although we had opened the outer bulletproof door, my father had previously had a hollow iron door installed, so there was still a barrier between us and them. The leader, holding a pistol, demanded we open it. Leo negotiated, stating that only the boss could come in alone, or else they were all doomed together. As Leo was holding explosives he had been studying in his room, I hadn't realized Leo knew how to make explosives. Recalling the notes he took in my room, my admiration for him deepened. This amount of explosives, combined with what you have outside, I believe none of us would make it out of this building alive, Leo said firmly. His resolute tone instilled fear in them, and after some discussion, the leader decided to enter with a subordinate who knew how to handle explosives. After verifying Leo's explosives, the subordinate nodded to the boss and then left. They probably realized our family had no real means of defense except for Leo, who was undaunted. The boss looked around our room, very satisfied with the stockpile of supplies that could last them a year. Finally, his gaze fell on me. With his sleazy, chubby face he said, "You can go, but she stays." Leo and my parents simultaneously protested. "That's impossible." The boss, visibly upset, wiped his pistol with a menacing glare. Leo's gaze was icy as he firmly stated, "We either all leave or none of us do. You can have all the supplies." The boss was furious but knew he had met his match, especially with the explosives Leo held that could destroy the entire building. Time was running out as the zombie horde was nearly upon us. My father tried to lighten the mood with a smile. "Young man, these supplies will last you a long time, no need to go out and suffer. There's also several gas cylinders in that room. If it explodes, we won't even find our ashes. You've worked hard for so long, don't die over this. If you let our family of 4 go, all this is yours. I only have this one precious daughter, and if she stays, we might as well all die together, since we're old and don't have many days left, right?" Due to the unusually cold weather of the past month, they probably would have targeted our homes sooner. Now that they found this place with electricity and water, they surely wouldn't let it go easily. Seeing the united resolve among us 4, the boss impatiently said, "Pack up and get out now." 5 minutes later, we hastily packed a few essentials and were forced out of our own home. From inside, we heard the cursing of a younger brother who had boasted about being the first to spot a beautiful woman, prompting us to quickly descend the stairs. Before leaving, we grabbed the handy tools we had prepared at the door. The peace of the past 5 months had come to an end, and we were now about to face zombie monsters we had never encountered before. I held my mother's hand tightly, reassuring her not to be afraid. "I'm here for you, Mom. Your daughter has grown up, don't be scared." It appeared that those who had gone upstairs earlier had cleared some zombies, as there were severed zombie heads and limbs in the stairwell. We donned masks to bear the disgusting smell and sight. We had just unanimously decided to head to the underground safety base established in the eastern part of the city. Fortunately, thanks to Leo's earlier purchase, there was a bulletproof car in the basement, which would be crucial for our perilous journey. The underground garage was pitch dark, and we dared not descend directly without knowing whether zombies were lurking ahead. Leo went down first to scout. He prepared his phone, threw it toward one side of the basement, and then dialed it. The sudden ringtone and the light from the phone screen brightly illuminated the basement. To our horror, we saw a corner of the basement was packed with about 100 zombies. It seemed that the cold outside had driven the zombies into the basement. Starting the car would surely alert them. Faced with such a dire situation, Leo decided to go alone. He planned to use explosives to blow up the zombie group. The 3 of us were to get the car ready and wait for him at the entrance. This was a risky move. Not only was there the danger of zombies swarming him, but if the explosives were too powerful, more than just zombies could be destroyed. "Layla, listen to me," my father said as he prepared to ignite the fuse. "You take your aunt and uncle to the car, start it quickly, and drive out of the garage. Push through anything that blocks your way." My father had offered to go, but Leo firmly refused, arguing that he was older and not as quick on his feet. Holding back tears, I rushed into Leo's arms and choked out, "You must come back quickly, you must." I didn't want him to die to save me again in this life. I already owed him more than I could ever repay. I will, Leo promised, with that assurance. I let him go and watched him disappear before my eyes. I didn't delay. I took my parents to the parking spot, conveniently located near the elevator, and we quickly got to the car. With trembling hands, I inserted the key, started the car, and drove out of the garage without looking back, tears streaming down my face. Behind me, a massive explosion rocked the underground garage, and the entrance collapsed. I stubbornly parked the car at the community entrance, unwilling to leave since he had promised to come out, after an agonizing 10 minutes. As the zombie horde approached and the ground seemed to shake, Leo still hadn't returned. My parents urged me to leave, not wanting to lose me after possibly losing Leo. Just as I was sobbing uncontrollably, someone knocked on my car door. Layla. Hearing that familiar voice, I immediately opened the door, rushed out, and embraced the injured Leo, tears of pain sliding down my face. Fool, why cry? Haven't I come back? His face was smeared with dirt, but he forced a smile to ease my worries. Suddenly, I felt an overwhelming urge to bite him hard, and I did just that. I bit his lip quickly before releasing it and helping him into the back seat. My father took the driver's seat while I got out of the car, and as the sound of the zombie horde grew louder, we drove away quickly. Looking through the rearview mirror, I could see our community being engulfed by a dark tide of zombies. Even a 20-story building was no barrier. The zombie horde formed a flesh ladder, leaving no survivors wherever they went. In the car, Mom took out the emergency medical kit and handed it to me, asking me to tend to Leo's wounds. The bite was a moment of relief, but now it felt awkward enough to make me want to hide. The atmosphere inside the car was strangely intimate. Leo looked at me deeply with those eyes, wounded yet smiling, which made me blush. Look at you, bragging about how fast you can run because you're young. Now look at all these injuries. He explained that it was too late when he tried to escape. He was hit by some debris. Fortunately, the guardhouse in the parking garage shielded him for a moment, allowing him the luck to escape by moving rocks that blocked the garage exit. Thankfully, his injuries were just superficial. I carefully disinfected his wounds. However, Leo, unconcerned about his own pain, grasped my hand. Layla, thank you for not leaving me behind. If you had been a minute later, I would have been gone, I joked. But I understood the deeper meaning behind his words. From a young age, his mother left when he was very young, and later his father also left, leaving him alone at home. This abandonment instilled a sense of deep solitude and made him reserved and quiet. He longed for the warmth of a family. I silently resolved, Leo, from now on, we are family. The road to the eastern city's underground safety base was clear, thanks to the government. Along the way, we saw others also heading to the safety base in their cars, filling us with hope that many people were still fighting to survive. Near the safety base, our car had to stop abruptly because the vehicles ahead, heading in the same direction, had collided, leaving no survivors. Dad urgently hit the brakes. The wrecked vehicles blocked the narrow path, making it impossible for ours to pass. Leo told us to stay inside while he went to the trunk to grab some weapons to scout ahead. This time, we didn't listen. We all got out and followed him, each of us clutching weapons, ready to fight together. It was unclear whether the figures ahead were humans or zombies. With no way back, the safety base ahead, and the looming zombie horde behind, we had no choice but to move forward. As we approached the pile-up, a zombie leapt from the roof of a car towards us. Leo, quick as ever, chopped its head off with an axe, splattering disgusting blood everywhere. We got some on us, but we couldn't worry about the mess as more zombies, about a dozen, surged towards us. Leo tried to shield us, urging us to get back in the car, but I refused. Let's fight them together. This time, we stick together no matter what happens. My parents agreed, seeing we wouldn't retreat. We planned to take down the zombies one by one, drawing them into a trap. Otherwise, we four would be overwhelmed. I gripped my chainsaw, ready to swing at any approaching monsters. My dad and Leo ferociously fought the zombies, and my mom and I, equally determined, fought for our lives and this final chance. After taking down a few more, they pushed us back step by step, with the zombie horde nearly upon us and time running out. In a final rush, we surged forward, weapons in hand, fighting fiercely. While I was battling one, another zombie burst from the side and knocked me down. my head smashing against the ground, as the zombie lunged at me with bared teeth. I thought I was about to die as I had in a past life, but then an axe swung down, decapitating the zombie. Leo pulled me back up from the ground. Frightened, he pulled me into his arms. Normally composed and stoic, he was now visibly panicked, his usually calm eyes filled with fear. "Layla, are you all right? Are you hurt anywhere?" Leo released me and anxiously checked me over to see if I had been scratched or bitten. After my parents finished off the last zombie, they came over to me. My mom was already in tears, asking if I was okay. "Layla, if you turn into a zombie, bite me first, I'll join you," she said. Dad and Leo seemed to agree with Mom's statement. If I really turned into a zombie, they probably wouldn't want to continue as humans either. Surrounded by these loving people, I wanted to cry but held back. I was afraid they would worry about me, and I feared the approaching wave of zombies even more. "I'm fine, let's head to the safety base now." Once my parents were sure I was all right, the four of us sprinted. I ran faster than I ever had in my life, with Leo tightly holding my hands. Eventually, we reached the entrance to the safety base and knocked on the heavy iron door. 1 year after the zombie virus outbreak, we settled down in an underground safety base in the east of the city, and life began to normalize. We had reached the safety base just before the wave of zombies arrived, a place secured by the government and the military, which gave us a great sense of security. Now, Leo and I both joined the national effort to clear out zombies. I was in charge of operating drones to scout for zombies and inform the military for extermination. If there were many zombies, I would contact Leo's department, which specialized in explosives. A precise drop of a small bomb would annihilate the zombies. I got involved in this national effort thanks to the End of Days Stockpiling Guide and Survival Guide I had posted online. Government officials said these posts helped countless people find ways to save themselves amidst chaos. The content of my posts was officially used and broadcasted over the radio, which led to my recruitment into the zombie clearing efforts. Mom, who loved gardening and animals, was assigned to work on a farm, raising chickens and growing vegetables. She enjoyed her chats with the other ladies there. Dad took charge in a factory, a job he was well acquainted with from his past experience. They both worked during the day and enjoyed leisurely walks in the evenings, settling into a peaceful retired life early. At the base, I also met a mother from my building who had once rushed downstairs to get formula for her child during the outbreak. She and her adorable baby were rescued by government search teams. The baby, initially malnourished and thin, had grown into a chubby beloved child after months of care. On my birthday, Leo suddenly proposed to me. He invited everyone at the base to witness our love. I was a bit embarrassed. I hadn't expected such a serious man to propose in front of so many people. The ground was covered with fresh flowers he had apparently learned to grow from my mom. It was quite romantic. "Layla, will you marry me?" As Leo held out the ring and proposed, I was smiling with happiness, but decided to tease him a bit. What if I said no? Unexpectedly, he stood up, pulled me into his embrace, and leaned down to kiss me, in front of everyone. This man wasn't shy at all. I tried to push him away, but couldn't budge him. Leo whispered to me, "Layla, you have to take responsibility. Weren't you the one who first asked if I would marry you? Are you trying to back out now?" To my surprise, he kissed me. Suddenly, I recalled a dream where I dreamed Leo was rescuing me and my dad. In the dream, I had hugged and kissed him, even asking him if he would marry me. Could all of that have been real? I suddenly wanted to disappear into a crack in the ground. I couldn't bear to look at Leo. I had indeed kissed him first, twice. Sigh. In my last life I swore I would never marry him, yet in this life, I've ended up with him. "Layla, marry me." "Okay."